Happy Thursday, beautiful people. Happy Thursday. Y'all ready for the day? Ooh, today is going to be, I say today is going to be enlightening. That's what I'll say. I'll write this down real quick. All right. Well, we're gonna look at a couple things and I'm gonna ask some questions. I think that's the best way to help people learn, just to kind of draw out from themselves things that we've learned already. We're gonna use the WASP and we're gonna compare it with what the Bible says, with what we read here today about the topic, the main topic for today, which is same-sex marriages. That's the part we have come to. Did you get that? I literally opened my book, my Megillah, right to it. I just grabbed to open it. On page 147. So I'm gonna write this down. I'm gonna say hey to everybody that's coming in. All right, beautiful people. It is Thursday, April the 20th, 420. It's 420, 420 out there. It's 420. April 20th, 2023, day 21 of year 5 of reading through books, laws, and prophets. And of the four, see, I was thinking about it and I still said it wrong out my mouth. It's of the 5-year consecutive day count. It is day 1404. Today, like I just said, we will start chapter 19 in the Secret Nazarite Scroll, also called the Holy Megillah. The Holy Megillah is the official name for this. Holy Megillah, the Nazarene Bible of the Essene Way. You can go to community section, scroll down a few posts back, you will see where you can call and get it from. You can only get it from one place unless you know somebody that has purchased an extra copy and would be willing to let you borrow or purchase theirs, right? But you can only get it from the producers of this translation. Today, y'all, hold on. Maybe I gotta write this down before I forget. All right, y'all. Father, we thank you. You know, I think I said this before, but I think I'm going to say it again today. We thank you for the ability to think and think through things unbiasedly using all the information available to us. I'll keep it at that. All right. Beautiful people. I just say hey to everybody. Auntie Belinda Brown here, bright and early. First one in the room. I think first one in the room. And the first one probably commented. Grand Rising. Audrey Shalom, Global Purpose, Grand Rising, greetings, family, Facebook user. I'm not sure if that's Misha or if that's Mimi or somebody else. Another Facebook user says, glory and praise to our heavenly mother, father, Jah. It could be the same person, could be a different person. I don't know. But whoever it is definitely coming from the private Facebook group because of now I realize because of the private settings, it's just anything private and us viewing out, they even keep your identity private. So if you want us to know who you are, you got to put your name in there or you got to jump in on another stream where we at. Either the Facebook page, which is public, or one of the YouTube channels, the main one or the back one. Just me, blessings. Prince, what's going on, family? Infinity to all Jah angels. Avia, greetings. Derek, shalom. Prince said 420 about to wake and bake and study. Eclipse today. All right, beautiful people. And everybody else here hanging out in the background. Top of the day to you. Happy Thursday. So let's get right into this, shall we? It's going to pick up talking about this at verse 18. And I'll alert you when we come upon verse 18. I'm like, all right, y'all, here you go. That's what I'm going to say. Something like that. All right, y'all, here you go. Bennett, greetings. All right, beautiful people. So let's get started. Verse 1, chapter 19. Abraham and Sarah visit Earth. The killing of Abdiel and Ishah by Cain. That's the title of this chapter. Verse 1. Lo, life in the Nazarene kibbutza was blessed. Remember, kibbutza we learned is a community, right? The kibbutza or the kibbutz. The brethren and sisters worked hard, but loved their work. For Abdiel declared that each should perform the work of their heart. Yea, for 5 days of each 7 they worked at their trades. Then came a day of play, and the 7th was the Sabbath. Kind of like, even though they don't call it this, well, for the most part here in America, I know it's places they have you working around the clock 24/7, right? But for the most part, and even the banks, well, even the banks now, some banks are open on Saturdays, but the work week is Monday through Friday, and then you got like the day of play, then they have the religious day if you should choose to use it for that purpose, right? So they kind of line up, you know. So we kind of used to that, unless you just work all the time, whatever, right? Okay. Yea, for 5 days each. Yea, for 5 days of each 7 they worked at their trades. Then came a day of play, and the 7th day was the Sabbath. So you work 5 days, you get a day of play with your family, do whatever, and then it's the Sabbath. Verse 4, the day of play was on the day called Yom Eretz, which for short was called Yom Eretz. And after Yom Eretz is reference number 1. And number 1 at the bottom says Mother Earth Day. Animalistic nature, shalom. Mom, shalom, shalom. Bennett, thank you. Page 147. Tikva, hey girl, hey. Page 147, chapter 19. All right, verse 4. The day of play was on the day called Yom Eretz, which for short was called Yom Eretz, which is Mother Earth Day. This was a good day for playing with the children. For behold, many children were born in the early years of the kibbutza, for many marriages were declared. And the way of the Nazarene marriage and divorce was as follows. I guess we should probably get into this topic a little bit too. We'll talk about it. We'll talk about it. Let me just keep reading. And the way of Nazarene marriage and divorce was as follows. Matter of fact, let me just go and get my highlight over here. Just highlight a few different points. At age 18, Nazarene boys and girls were declared men and women. Then the men of the kibbutza gathered with the new man for, Then the men of the kibbutza gathered with the new man for his manhood ceremony. At this ceremony, the men offered advice on life to the new man. And the women of the kibbutza gathered with the new woman for her womanhood ceremony. At this ceremony, the women offered advice on life to the new woman. After this ceremony, the new adult was eligible for marriage, but had likely received much advice on the marriage of waiting. Abdiel taught, and it had become Nazarene law, that any adult was free to marry any other adult if both parties so desired. The couple must come before the high priest and declare their intention to marry. At this time, the high priest gave his advice, but would not prohibit marriage. Also at this time, a couple informed the high priest as to what kind of ceremony they would prefer. And that was verse 17. So now we're about to get into this. Verse 18. Behold, in the early days of the kibbutza, 2 women met with the high priest and asked if they were free to marry. Lo, Abdiel had not previously considered this possibility. The names of the women were Hannah and Mehetabel. And after Hannah is reference number 2, and 2 at the bottom says, the name Hannah is the familiar English version of the Hebrew name Hannah, pronounced Kana, and it's spelled Channnah, pronounced Kana, Khaw-Naw, so Kana, and means favored. So Hannah or Kana means favored. And then after Mehetabel is reference number 3. And reference number 3 says the Hebrew name Mehetabel means Elohim does good. So let me go back. I'll reread verse 18. Behold, in the early days of the kibbutza, 2 women met with the high priest and asked if they were free to marry. Lo, Abdiel had not previously considered this possibility. Remember, at this time, Abdiel is Abel, the son of Adam and Eve, and he is at this time, after he's going through this whole Christed ceremony, right, where he's in line with the Creator. He has not previously considered this option. Tabitha, shalom, shalom. Verse 19, page 147. Lo, Abdiel had not previously considered this possibility. And after possibility is an exclamation point. We must remember that all books have truth and errors. I agree with that. Let me keep on reading. Hold on. Lo, Abdiel had not previously considered this possibility. The names of the women were Hannah and Mehetabel. Abdiel asked for time to contemplate their request. He asked them to return the next day. Abdiel spent the night in deep prayer and contemplation. He asked Elohim for guidance, and guidance was given. When Hannah and Mehetabel returned, Abdiel spoke, saying, all shall be free to love and marry whomsoever they choose, provided their chosen partner agrees and is of age. So, hold on. Let me keep reading before I start asking questions. Okay. When Hannah and Mehetabel returned, Abdiel spoke, saying, all shall be free to love and marry whomever they choose, provided their chosen partner agrees and is of age. Not only shall your marriage be permitted, it shall be honored and respected without prejudice. Behold, this is the will of Elohim. And I'm gonna keep on reading to verse 32 to verse 33. And then I'm gonna kind of go back, and then we're gonna start chopping it up a little bit about this. Brian Jog, shalom. Abdiel, hold on. Abdiel is being tested like a waspy says. Just me. Okay. Tested. Go ahead and answer this while I'm reading this. Tested in what way is Abdiel being tested? Go ahead. Okay. When Hannah and Mehetabel, I'm gonna go back to 25. 24. He asked Elohim for guidance, and guidance was given. When Hannah and Mehetabel returned, Abdiel spoke, saying, all shall be free to love and marry whomever they choose, provided their chosen partner agrees and is of age. Not only shall your marriage be permitted, it shall be honored and respected without prejudice. Behold, this is the will of Elohim. Verse 28. Divorce amongst the Nazarenes was called blessed parting and was without stigma and often joyful. Abdiel taught that we sometimes come together in a marriage to learn certain lessons from one another, then part company so that we may learn other lessons from other partners. The lifespan is long, and one partner may grow at a different pace than the other, and goals and interests may part. Some will choose to stay with one partner for the entire lifespan, letting the working out of differences be the life lesson. But those who choose to experience the lessons of various partners over the lifespan are not to be thought less of or mocked. Indeed, many of the greatest Nazarene sages and prophets experienced the blessing of multiple marriages and learned many lessons from their partners. And that's verse 33. Now, that's a different way to look at it, right? Deborah, shalom, shalom. Vanette says all books were tampered with. I'm going with the male and female methods. Okay. You don't agree with that verse? Okay. A lot of us don't, right? But let me just ask some questions based on what we understand, because we got a lot of OWASP scholars here, right? Based on what we learned from OWASP, right? But we're going to also use some scriptures from the Holy Bible, and we're going to weigh it based on what we understand the Creator's character to be, how he judges, how he deals with us. We're gonna weigh Abdiel's advice that he said he got back after he spent the entire night in deep prayer and contemplation, right? We want to see if that advice lines up with what we think the creator would say, right? We may be right, we may be wrong, right? But we're going to test it based on some of the information we have. Now, Just Me says to give sound counseling without forcing someone to do the creator's will. I like that. I like that. We see all spiritual books have contradictions in it. They do, right? But in order to be a good scholar, in order to be a good researcher, we have to be, first of all, we have to just detach our feelings from what's going on here, right? Because most of the time, it doesn't have anything to do with the price of tea in China, meaning well, I can't say that. I was about to say it doesn't directly affect us, but because we're all connected, it does, right? And I think we have to remember that. I think because we are all connected, we're all affected in some type of way, even if we don't believe we are, right? Okay, so my first question to you is the advice that he gave to the two women, Abdiel, after he spent this entire night in deep meditation and prayer, was the advice that he gave them any different from the advice that he gave to the heterosexual marriages that we just learned about, right? The two women that asked, is it okay, or what's the ruling for two women if we wanted to get married? Was the advice that he gave them any different from the advice that he gave to the men and women? I want somebody to answer that. And then I want y'all to, I can see exactly where it is, but I want y'all to answer that. Okay, hold on. I'm gonna start popping y'all answers and stuff up here on the screen too for people who coming in or maybe sitting in the background are gonna watch this later. Okay, let me go back up. Okay, so y'all want y'all to answer that. Okay. Vanessa said we must remember all books have truth and errors, right? Keep that, all this information we got to bring along with us while we're thinking about this, right? Abdiel is being tested like Owaspy says. And Just Me, I asked what he, you know what, Just Me, I'm sorry. I'm not sure if Just Me is a male or female. And I said he. I'm not sure if you're male or female. So Just Me, when I asked Just Me what did they mean by that, they said to give sound counseling without forcing someone to do creator's will, right? So when they said Abiel is being tested, he's being tested in the vein to still give sound counseling without forcing someone to do creator's will, right? Okay. Elijah, peace and blessings. Brian Job said, I don't agree with that verse. Tell me why you don't agree with it. When y'all, listen, here's what I want y'all to do. When y'all tell me how y'all feel about what we're talking about, let's do like they do on the debates, right? With Madley coming through with the scripture reference, like he approved Apostle Paul was not an apostle based on the requirements that was laid out when Jesus Christ walked the earth, based on the requirements that Jesus said, or Yeshua said, that these, to be an apostle, you would have had to have, first of all, walk with the master, right? Everything with Creator says, when you tell me how you feel or that you don't agree with it, tell me why, right? Okay, so don't just throw it out there willy-nilly, because we are here. It's people in the background. It's people that's struggling with this lifestyle that think the Creator is just sending them to hell because their choices. Like, seriously, let's be enlightened. Let's be a light to other people that may be watching in the background and may come see this video sometime down the road, right? Let's help them think through their stuff. Okay, to give sound counseling without forcing someone to do creator's will. I agree with that. Vanette said, we see that all spiritual books have contradictions in it. Tabitha said, remember the marriage of Hosea to his unfaithful wife? It was meant for a lesson to unfaithful Israel. I hadn't even thought about that. Thank you, Tabitha. Thank you. Because how many, listen, hold on, because that would be good to use in here with the divorce, right? But there is, we're gonna talk about that a little bit, right? It was meant to be a lesson to Israel, but everybody would not stick around for that. First, if I even think, I don't even need proof. If I think you cheated, bro, I'm out. Or sis, find you another one. Find you another one, but it won't be me, right? You have very few, they're very few and very far in between people who have I'll say it, because you got to have you Forgiveness has to really has taken up residence deep down in your shanana. For you to be somebody like Hosea, and especially to be a man, to be able to give himself faithfully to an unfaithful wife. Most men are not built that way, and they just won't stand for it, right? And a lot of women aren't either, but you have some men that will give you the benefit of the doubt, that is willing to work it out regardless of what it is, right? And is adultery the worst thing? Some people think so, but some people think the worst thing is their partner being strung out on drugs, right? Because now it depends on how far it goes, they could begin stealing from the house, right? All of it leads back to stealing from the house and depleting the marriage, whether it's adultery, whether it's your spouse being strung out on drugs, or whether your spouse lives a down low lifestyle. It all does the same thing, right? And most people, the other spouse on the receiving end of that, a lot of times they're not to a place spiritually or developed to a place far enough to where they can even withstand those blows and help to restore their other spouse, right? I mean, because why do we get married? If I get in trouble and nobody else can help me and I've lost my mind, who can I depend on? Right? And the other person, oh, see, you doing this, and oh, no. And then it's like, and they could really be struggling. Like they really could be struggling. It could be a sex addiction. It could be a drug addiction. It could be a opposite sex flesh addiction. It could be it could be a gambling addiction. There could be a host of other things that your spouse needs healing from that probably didn't start in a marriage, right? The seeds of whatever it is that they're going I was about to say something that they're having a hard time overcoming. This is probably things that happen early on in a marriage, right? It could be low self-esteem so much to where you don't speak up for yourself, right? And you may not have a spouse that's causing you to like cower in. They could be trying to push you out of your shell, right? But I've seen a relationship where this happened. A young lady, she had actually got molested when she was younger, and she never got healed. But that was one of the main things in their marriages. And her husband was really, I had never seen, I ain't gonna say I ain't never seen a man this kind and this, well, at least on TV that they've shown. This is somebody like on TV that I've seen, like it was like one of the reality TV shows or whatever. And it could have been all for show, but the way he did it, I began to look at men in a different light when I was like, you know what, some men actually probably do really care, right? But he was talking about how they were going to counseling sessions just to kind of help her, because he didn't really understand. He could only empathize with her because he had never been abused. He came from kind of like a well-to-do background, had both of his parents in the home, like all of these things. But she just couldn't get past the abuse. She wasn't able to move past that, and it was causing like major issues. Like the husband was being as understanding as he could. Okay, baby, let's go get some help. And it was like she was going, but I'm not even gonna say she was refusing to help. I just don't think that they found somebody. I don't think they found the right person just to kind of help her walk through it. Because I began to also look at the counselors, and they were doing the best they could, but that seed down in her, it was rooted deep, right? So I want us to think about all of these things. A lot of time when we get in situations like this, or we're throwing our judgment on it, we don't think about it, right? So I want us to consider all these things, right? Instead of just, it's wrong, it don't line up with what I believe, so take it or leave it. If not, enjoy your life, right? And we can't do that. We can't write. Well, some people do. I was about to say you can't write off your family, but some people do. Some people literally they just write off their family. I'm not dealing with it, right? But I would think you're adding to their problem. Granted, don't say nothing if you ain't got nothing nice to say. But let's look at this in the light of what we understand about Creator. Okay. Just me said, false gods want to kill off mankind and rule over it. Creator wants mankind to flourish and choose his way of reproduction. I agree with that, right? we're gonna agree on some things, and we're gonna talk through this together. Let's use our logic, not just from the lower human level, but also spiritually, right? We all agree that there are things are created for a purpose, and sometimes, just like I gave the analogy of the fork, gave the analogy. They used all the forks, and I had to wash all of them, so they made a dish rack. Hold on. Just like we used the analogy of the fork the other day. What was the fork created for? Everybody sees a fork, and everybody in this day and age, everybody know what this is, right? It's an eating utensil. So anytime we see anybody doing anything with this, first of all, we all are immediately alerted, right? And we feel some type of way, right? We know if ain't no plate in front of you, or you standing in the kitchen looking for a plate, you know, if it's outside of its natural parameters, everybody began to get that you to stink out, like, what you doing with that, right? And so if they see you take this, and some people eat their food like this, you know, okay, whatever. But if they see you take this fork and turn it around like this, and now you look like you got fire in your eyes, and you outside the kitchen, bro, what is you about to do with that fork? Right? And just like they look at people like, bro, what is you about to do with that? That ain't what that's used for. Matter of fact, I'm not even the same type. I'm not even the type of person you're supposed to be using that on, right? Look. Cosmine came in here the other day. He said, I'm a boy, Damon. Right? Talk about same-sex relationships, right? So we understand that there are proper uses for things, and there are improper uses for things, right? At least that's what we've been taught, and I would say that is true, right? So this is meant to eat food, shovel food from a plate or wherever. Some people right out the pot into your mouth, whatever, but it's used for eating, right? Some people take it, use it as a back scratcher. They go scratching their back or scratching their legs. I've even seen a dude scratch his balls. I'm just like, that had better go in the trash can when you're done. I mean, it wasn't nobody here who was like, actually, and it wasn't like a real fork either. It was a plastic fork. I'm just like, bro, you got all 5 of your fingers. And for you to do that, I'm just like, personally, I think he was being funny. But anyway, I digress. So I will say that the path of darkness does want you to pervert the proper use of things, right? Okay, sounds like a modern day construct added or inserted into the text. Could be. Remember, Adam and Eve were fooled by Lucifer in the garden. Absolutely, I agree with that. Folks will use I agree with that, yo. Folks will use that verse for serial divorcing. I agree with that, right? Because some people is just going to look to find things to prove and line up with what they believe without looking at it in its complete and full context, right? I agree with that. Some people will use it for that, right? Do I think it's right? I don't think so, because it comes back down to personal accountability to the person you gave vows to, right? And if you can't amicably resolve things, if you can't amicably resolve things, you both should agree, right? And then you should both come to the decision that you're going to come to, right? And then move on with life that way. Some people, they may use that and be like, the first time they spouse, instead of actually trying to work through the issues or whatever that they have problems with their spouse about, they're just going to use it as my get out of jail free card. All right, that's it. This ain't worked out how I thought it was. This is something else. This is not what I thought it was going to be. So have a nice life. Go get married again. And the first time they run into an issue, maybe the second time, you know what, this is not what I signed up for. Goodbye, second wife or second husband. Going to the third one. We saw somebody that was married 7. Me and my husband was laughing yesterday because it was day before yesterday, because we saw somebody that they were literally in their 7th marriage. I said, we obviously know who the problem in all these 7 marriages are, right? It's the person who keeps getting married over and over and over and over again. It isn't, I ain't gonna say it ain't had nothing to do with the other spouse, but the person who keeps getting married, there's a problem. And I would say they fall into the line of that one. Folks will use that verse for serial divorcing because they use it as their path to just go on. And I would venture to say that they don't ever consider their own ways, because you can't have that many divorces without, because there's one common variable in all of these marriages, the 6 divorces, and you probably on your way to wife number 8, right? There is one common variable going throughout this thread of marriages is you're the problem, right? But they never want to look at themselves. They always blame it on the other spouse because they see a flaw or something that they were not prepared for, that they just don't want to give their time in helping their spouse get through. You're the problem, right? Okay, so let's keep, and I'm using all this based on my going on 22 years of marriages and some of the things that we've encountered in our own marriage, right? And some of them, most people, year 1, I'm done, right? We've went through a lot of stuff, and only like family members that like know us, know some of the things. It's like, it wouldn't have been me, and just from everybody got their own opinions about stuff, right? So, but when we took vows, even though one of us may have been a little more mature than the other, and vice versa in different areas, when we took vows, we were, how old was we? 20 and 21 when we got married, right? Yeah, 20 and 21 when we got married. And yeah, it's always somebody that's a little bit more of something than somebody else, a little bit more grown up, whatever. But I think what helped us along the way is really, really wanting it to work. It was, I don't think we didn't, I'm not going to say we didn't get married for the wrong reason, but I think we had a couple things right, and we talked about a lot of things. A lot of things, when it comes up, we talked about it. Even if we didn't think about it before, or it hadn't come up before, like, we really talked about it. And during those different phases, we had like a good support system around us, people who we could talk to. We learned early on I ain't gonna say not to get advice from people who haven't been married longer than you, because you can learn something from everybody, right? You can learn, they'll probably give you advice that you realize that you shouldn't take, right? And like, okay, thank you, I appreciate your time, right? Take that, put it right in the garbage, set it on fire, right? How did that work for you, right? So you have to qualify the information you get. And a lot of it takes time, and people don't have the time, right? So when it comes to issues a little bit, what we think is a little bit deeper than just divorcing in a marriage, now we're talking about same sex. Now we really getting into something. Okay, well, let's look and see how Creator deals with this. And if He allows us to choose, just like He allowed us to choose, because people can tell you, yes, stay together, or because the Bible says this, and if you don't, then don't ever marry again, right? But isn't that falling into the category of forcing? Right? And does the Creator force us? Does the Creator come down here and smack food out our hand? He up beside you when you on your late night creep to your sneaky link. Hey, bro, your wife is at home. What is you doing here? Turn away from Tanya's door. Don't go ring Tanya's doorbell. Even though you may have your ashars in your head, like, bro, what you doing? No, don't do that. I says, what? No, because he at work. Don't do this, right? You got your ashars and your conscience going on. They trying to give you wisdom. Think about what you about to do before you make this choice, because once you do it, you're not going to be able to undo it. You're going to have to deal with all the repercussions that come behind it, right? So we got to think about all of these things along the way, right? Audrey said, I think the fact that we are given free will, and it's up to us to choose. I agree with that. Male, no, he didn't discriminate from the heterosexual advice, right? Okay, so let's go back to this real quick. So what he said to Hannah and Mehetabel, he said, Abdiel spoke, saying, this is verse 25 on page 147, chapter 19. When Hannah and Mehetabel returned, Abdiel spoke, saying, all shall be free to love and marry whomever they choose, provided their partner agrees and is of age. And let's go back to what he said to the heterosexuals, the men and the women. verse 15 and 16. The couple must come before the high priest and declare their intention to marry. At this time, the high priest gave his advice, but would not prohibit marriage. Hold on, I'm sorry, I didn't go up far enough. Oh, verse 14. Abdiel taught, and it had become Nazarene law, that any adult was free to marry any other adult if both parties agreed, or if both parties so desired. The couple must come before the high priest and declare their intention to marry. At this time, the high priest gave his advice, but would not prohibit marriage, right? Just like when they became of age at 18. Let's go back and see what it says about that, right? At the age of 18, verse 8, at age 18, Nazarene boys and Nazarene girls were declared men and women. Then the men of the kibbutz gathered with the new man for his manhood ceremony. At this ceremony, the men offered advice on life to the new man, and the women of the kibbutz gathered with the new woman for her womanhood ceremony. At this ceremony, the women offered their advice on life to the new woman. After this ceremony, the new adult was eligible for marriage. You turn 18, you're eligible to marry, right? After this ceremony, the new adult was eligible for marriage, but had likely received much advice on the merits of waiting, right? So we can see this. Everybody's giving their advice. They're giving their input, but it's up to you to choose. Even the high priest, even if they're 18 and they went through the manhood, womanhood ceremony, and they said, well, this, but I would encourage you, give it a little bit of time, develop over here, learn what you want to do, observe. You know, everybody's giving their advice. Don't jump into it so soon, because you probably need to develop here and here. Let us give you our wisdom, or so let's share some stories with you on when I got married and the different things we ran into. They're giving them things to think about and consider, so that when they go to this other person that they're thinking about marrying, they both agree, okay, now they have these stories, they have this advice. This should be the time to talk about this and talk about all the wisdom that they received from the older men and the older women. Okay, so say if we did get married, what if we ran into this? How would we handle that, right? So they could choose to ponder over that advice, talk about that advice together. They could choose to completely ignore that advice and go get married, or they could consider all the advice, go through the steps, and then now we understand we still want to get married at age 18. Okay, right? Listen, but I think they're better prepared by listening to the advice. They don't have to agree to everything, and they don't have to apply it just like they did, but at least they gave them some guidelines, something they can look at and tweak to their own life and kind of make it, we can adjust this to our life. Just kind of like King David, when Saul gave him his armor, right? King David was like, I have not been trained in this, and this is just going to weigh me down. I don't know what to do with this. I know this armor has been good for you and you've won many wars and battles with this, but I can't use this. I haven't been trained in it, but what I have been trained in is this slingshot. I'm the son of a shepherd, right? I know how to use this, you know? So Abdiel taught that it had become Nazarene law that any adult was free to marry any other adult if both parties so desired. The couple must come before the high priest and declare their intention to marry. At this time, the high priest, even the high priest of the whole kibbutz, right? The whole kibbutz, the high priest didn't even say, no, I do not sanction this marriage. You're too young. You ain't listening, little girl. I see the family you came from. You ain't ready to be a wife, brother. You've been lazing around here in this kibbutz. Pick up your weight, sis. I don't think you should. Too many problems. Even the high priest, at this time, the high priest gave his advice, but would not prohibit a marriage. Also, at this time, the couple informed the high priest as to what kind of ceremony they would prefer, right? So let's keep all of these things in the forefront of our mind, right? Okay, so let's go down a little bit more. Tikva said, perpetual learning is constant, so I'm good with it all, right? Okay. She said, I may not agree with the others' choices, but some of these types of families are more loving and righteous than others not living that lifestyle. I completely agree with that, right? I completely agree with that. Because think about some people that came from I'm just, you can say more than Christians. Matter of fact, I will go as far to say just about all religions. When it comes to this, they have hard stances. No homosexual, no same-sex marriages whatsoever. We do not agree with that, right? And most of us don't, because we understand that this is not the proper way of using a person. Because what is this supposed to? Everything that we bring together, it's supposed to reproduce, right? It's supposed to reproduce. It's supposed to produce fruit. There is no good fruit. There is no reproduction of the human race when you bring two of the same parts together. Male and male cannot reproduce. Female and female cannot reproduce. That ain't like medical misinformation or anything like that. That everybody knows that if you want to have a baby, and we ain't talking about we'll go to the lab and get artificially inseminated. We ain't talking about that. We're talking about human beings actually performing the act of reproduction, right? So everything has a purpose. And a lot of time we're not just, oh, we're doing this, we only have sex when we want to have a baby. No, it's also a source of enjoyment, consolation, playfulness, time, fun, whatever. We can use it for a lot of things. And also if we want to reproduce, we already know what to do, right? But also we learn in OWASP, right? Remember about the example about the horse and the donkey? Right? What did creators say? Right? Without coming down there, listen, why are y'all mating these animals together? It ain't gonna produce life. No. He's already set everything in motion, right? Everything will bear after its own kind. If it's not supposed to bear, it will be sterile. When you bring a horse and a donkey together, whether it's male or female, it will produce either a mule or a henny. A mule is the male offspring of this, and a henny is a female offspring of this. And when they come out, they will reproduce, but what they reproduce is sterile. It cannot give birth, and it will die out, right? So anything that doesn't give life will eventually die out. So think if the entire world chose to turn from heterosexual relationships, and everybody began to, this is the new course on life, same-sex marriages, right? How long would it be before the entire earth, the entire earth would be depleted of humans? I'd say 1, maybe 2 generations. There'll be no more humans left, right? It will not reproduce based on the laws of life. Do we need to force people or come down on them? No, we don't, because the laws are already set in motion by our wise creator. It's going to do its thing regardless of what we believe and how we feel about it. Do we need to waste all this extra time and energy coming down on people, making them feel less than because they made a choice that you wouldn't necessarily choose? I don't think so. Because what if that same person was your daughter? Or what if that same person was your son? Right? What if? Now we have those ones who, well, you was none of mine anymore. Don't you ever call my phone. Don't come to my house ever again. You have those kind, right? And you becoming a bigger part of the problem. Even if you say, well, our religion says this is forbidden. But what if that's a choice your child has made, right? Do you still stuff this down their throat and you kill the relationship between you that you're, according to OWASP, you're still going to be responsible for? If you die and leave here and you left this relationship all screwed up because of how you believe, because they made choices different from you, you're still responsible for them and the choices that they make and what they do. And your love didn't help them see the correct way or see this or make what you would deem to be a proper choice, right? You're still responsible for that. So if you want to look at somebody going to hell, you'll be there warming the seat for them, right? You're going to be right there. you will go first, right? I'm just looking at all of this in light of creator and what I've learned from OWASP. I'm literally only looking at it this way because of what I've learned by going through OWASP and learning how creator truly operates, right? So now that I'm coming upon this, I'm like, oh my God, what in the world? Why is this even in here? Those was my first thoughts when I came across this. But I'm glad I've gone through OWASP. And how long did it take us to read all the way through OWASP? It took us 6 months to go from the beginning to the end of OWASP, right? Every single day for 6 months, we read pages from OWASP, right? And we talked about it. And we were set free because we realized how much about the creator that we thought we knew, that we didn't know. And a lot of things was man-made, and the boundaries and the restrictions that were put on us did not come from our creator. It came from man wanting to control other men and women. Right? Okay. So let's just think about all this. Let's go through this. Hold on. Audrey said, as far as divorce, I agree with what is being said, because some people truly do fall out of love. And I believe the creator wants us to be truly happy and not forced to do anything and everyone. I agree with that. Deborah, hey sis. She said, for me, when my ex-husband cheated on me, I used to dream about the female he was cheating on me with. I divorced him because he defiled our bed. And that was your choice. And people do that. And do I think that's wrong? No, I don't think that's wrong, because creator does give you dreams. That's one of the things we experience, right? Dreams will happen, and it will be given to the listen, I ain't gonna say the dreams come from creator. I would venture to say that they probably come from your ashars, right? They come from your ashars, your guardian angels, ancestors, whatever you want to call them, right? Kind of, I would say, to prepare you ahead of time, right? Not to go flip out. Ninja, I knew so, I think to kind of prepare everybody, look at it in different ways, right? To kind of prepare you, especially if the spouse is gonna send you into try and make you feel like you're crazy or something, or they're just gonna outright lie about it. There is very specific detail given in dreams about spouses that they don't believe. They just think you probably been snooping around, right? But a lot of times that does happen. Spouses will receive dreams about the other spouse and what they're doing. It even happened to us, even when it comes down to business. I shared this story with you. When we lost our biggest account, I had a dream about it. I saw what happened. And then a few days later, my husband come walk in the house with this long face. We just lost the biggest account we ever had for our business. And this particular business was bringing us in almost $400,000 a year, right? And this is our early days. This was 2000, like the 2008, 2009 period, right? And so it'll happen. And not only will your spouse get dreams, but I would venture to say that you will also get dreams, because they're trying to steer you away from things that could possibly not just destroy your marriage, but even possibly destroy your life, right? Because what if you catch a disease or something that you can't get rid of? Now, I'm of the mindset now that even HIV can be healed, right? I mean, because you ain't got to do nothing but clean up your blood. But how many people some people are just their thinking is flawed, right? And some people and people who know that there's really nothing that the body can't heal from, put in the right environment and given the right things to aid it in its healing process. If you are of that mindset, you've developed that far to understand those things, I would venture even further to say that you're not going to go and do anything on purpose. I'm not going to go out here and have sex willy-nilly because I know I can just do some herbs and say, I call Yaki and I'll be healed. Most people won't do that, right? Because they haven't grown to that point. If you've grown to that point, you won't even make that decision, right? So just think about all of this, right? Prince said, I got lots of forgiveness. Deep down in my sha-na-na. May all of us be able to say that. Let it sit deep down in our sha-na-na. Okay. You should learn a lesson from it. Just like spiritual growth, you may outgrow your spiritual teacher and need to move on in order to grow. You might outgrow your partner in order to grow. I don't necessarily disagree with that. Matter of fact, I don't disagree with it at all. But I would venture to say, but that you have to have a partner. You have to have a partner that's willing to put up with the other partner's setbacks and lack of growth, right? You really have to have that whole patience portion developed in you in order to really be patient with somebody while they work out their own soul salvation. Like, seriously. And it can be tough. It can be really tough, I'll keep going. I was going to share something. Okay. You got people that fall out of love every other year. Voice rate is through the roof. Just don't get married. if folk on that stuff. I mean, I agree. It's not something that should be just lightly, let's get married today. And some people do that, right? But you got some that we just met, 2 months later we married. And some of them, they going long and strong, been married 40 years, right? Because I would say that just didn't happen like that. I would say that there has been a thorough background laid in their previous days before they met together, that they were able to, I found somebody, believe like me, we can lock in together. Not that they had the perfect marriage, but they were able to make it work. There was a foundation that was laid previously. For those that just get married off a whim like that, to us, it would seem like a whim. And even though we may not have been together, we learned this, we could have learned a lot of this stuff in previous relationships, learn how, especially if we was the variable that was causing all the problems, we could have got that together. It's like, you know what, the next time is going to be it. And you could have come from the same background, or maybe you didn't have multiple relationships. Maybe you just grew up with parents who just instilled certain type of things into you, and you guys cross paths, and boom, 2 months later you're married and you're going long and strong. The foundation has already been built, and the roots are deep. That's why they last long. And to us, like I said, to us, it seemed like they've been married off a whim, but I would say not, right? They were very well prepared for that step that they just took. Your middle name, Hosea? Okay. That's why you probably love so hard. Wait, hold on. Let me go back. Hosea. Oh, yeah, that's right. It was Hosea, the prophet Hosea. I was like, for a second, I was like, wait, was that the wife name? Threw me off for a second. My bad, Prince. Okay. Let's see. Vinette says the creator will not contradict himself. The lesson is not for us to judge them, but to love them as our brothers and sisters and let the creator guide them in this way. So we're kind of saying the same thing. The creator doesn't contradict himself, right? But he does allow us to make our own choices, right? He lets us see all the way to the end of it, right? I know some of us is like, well, just don't do it either way, right? But a lot of times, some people, they don't learn by just telling them not, right? Because when you tell them don't do something, they feel like they need to prove you wrong, right? Creator gives them that space. Creator gives them that space. I'm gonna go through a couple of these, and we're gonna read from I'm gonna read this portion from OWASP. Okay. Magnificent viewpoint, Mariah. Hold on, Mariah. Did I miss a comment? I'm Mariah. Is there Mariah here? I missed a comment. Or maybe there's somebody named that I don't know their real name. Okay, my bad. I'm gonna just keep going. Okay. Deborah, defilement of the bed, you can take on the characteristics of who he or she had sex with. I agree with that, right? And now that I've read through OWASP, I understand what's happening here, right? You absolutely do. The Christian will call it sharing demons or whatever. You can say all of that, but there is a spiritual thing that happens. It really does. We familiar with the terms, you open the door to certain things. I don't disagree with that, because you really do. You, whatever disembodied humans, and that's what demons are, disembodied humans who once lived, that are lingering around the earth. Now they're lingering around you and your household, and all of those things that they are, what's the word? Not an oppression, but a lot of time people act off things they hear or they feel certain ways, and they're, what you say? Yeah, like things that they would think are impulsive, but what they don't realize, they don't understand what's going on around them in the spiritual realm, and they can't perceive the unseen spirits that are there, that are causing them and leaning them towards this direction. You know, just like if you like it could be a couple things. I say you have to understand spiritually what's going on around you. You could be fine, full of joy, and all of a sudden you get this overwhelming sense of grief or something. Now, first, if that happens, I was like, okay, what's wrong? And I start calling around, checking, making sure everybody's okay. You know, and if everybody's okay, I'm like, okay, is this a feeling? Is something going to happen? Is somebody going to get in trouble? And then I'll pray. right? And then I also think, okay, and this could be a spirit of grief or something that's just lingering around from a disembodied human that's found its way around me, and now it's being radiated upon me. Like, you have to be able to discern between all of those things in order to adjust the situation or correct it where it needs to be. How so?
Always say you're happy.
I mean, you could do that, but sometimes that just don't work.
Go do things that make
Shayla, you hey girl, hey. Objective reality. People from the flesh, but as they grow spiritually, they can see people with clear eyes. I agree.
Wait, what?
I don't want to screw your name up, Mr. Jackson. Hold on. Tekacon. Like Shaka Khan? No. Tekacon. Tekacon? That's Tekacon, right?
Yep.
Mr. Jackson. Hello. Yeah, people have personal loopholes, right? Okay. Let me scroll down real quick. Let me see, because I'm going to get to this question. Topic. Tabitha, this is a sensitive topic, but I love how the WASP gang is addressing it with wisdom and kindness. Okay. Well, I was about to say that I don't really see men getting married that many times, though. That's something I was going to bring up. Okay. So I remember, well, you can look this up. I remember my uncle was talking about this. He was sharing with me this study on a divorce rate, looking into like Christian divorce rates and people of other religions or whatever, even those that have no religion. And they saw that that there was this, there are not a lot of men. Okay, so you probably don't see a lot of men getting remarried, because a lot of times when men from what I've seen and what I've experienced, a lot of time, even if the men are full of shenanigans and they could be the cheater, they don't want to keep getting married, right? They want some time to sow their royal oats, and then it's like as they get older, they go through this midlife crisis and they want to settle down and they don't want to start over, right? A lot of women from the very beginning, simply because how we're raised, we start off early, like, bro, this is like for life, one time. Like, why we got to do all of this? Get it together, right? But a lot of times, on what we found out in that study, the point I was bringing up, they saw a lot of times that it was the women who initiated the divorce most of the time. And a lot of time the men would try and salvage it, but it was the women, they had just gotten to a point where this is it. I'm done. Nope, there's no more reconciliation at this point. And a lot of time begrudgingly, even though it could have been all, I can't even say it could have been 100% of the man's fault, because it's never 100% of the other party's fault, right? And I want to make sure we keep it balanced, because not just the men, even the women, well, because you wasn't doing this, I did this. Well, where's your self-control? Because when you did this, I could have went and did that, but I chose not to, right? And you have all these, it comes down to morals, maturity, the models that you had before you when they encountered these same type of situations, right? And especially in their marriages, it comes down to all of these things, right? And that would be like, we'll go back here when they turn 18 at this ceremony, they receive advice and guidance from the men and advice and guidance from the women for the women. We can look at this like this: all that we've observed, all of the input that we've gotten, we can take it and we can adjust it and make it our own, right? So some people have taken that advice, well, this is justified because you wasn't spreading your legs as many times during the week as I thought you should, right? And that's why I had to go out here to the many fish in the sea, right? But then you come back smelling like fish, and then we got a problem, right? And that goes both ways, but so it's never 100% always the other person's fault, right? And they could very well be reaching out, but maybe we'll say love languages, maybe they aren't communicating effectively, and not just talking about, talking around, but not communicating effectively to one another because of biases growing. There's like a lot of things you have to deal with, right? Biases growing up, how you saw your parents work out problems, right? If one person is just kind of passive all the time, maybe you took on that passive role, and now you've married somebody that's a little bit more outspoken. They just kind of pretty much lead it, and you just kind of follow suit or whatever. And even when you have problems with something, you don't ever really speak up. All right, son, love you, drive safe. And that creates a monster down the road, because as you get a little bit older, it's like, I'm sick of this crap, and it's like, now you're speaking up. But at this time, when you're speaking up to the other spouse, it looks like, who you been talking to? Like, all of these years we've been married and you ain't said nothing. You got somebody else got to be in your ear. And now they project on you what through their filter and how they've been operating. So now they think you've been getting advice or talking to somebody else, when it's really you've just gotten fed up with it, right? And either we're going to work this out, deal with this now, or this is going to have to dissolve, right? And you get all of these same things. It just looks different depending on what your issue is, right? And the main topic is the same-sex marriages, but all of this same stuff applies here as well, right? Okay, so let's go back. Let me scroll down a little bit, and I want to read something from here in OWASP, where it's going to talk about this. And although it wasn't specifically saying same-sex marriage, it was the creator giving advice, and the creator was actually speaking here. And that's what I was looking for. I was looking for something from creator about this particular situation, because anything could kind of like go out of pocket. Okay, what does creator say about this, and not your opinion of what you think, right? Okay, so let me scroll down a little bit. Read the whole Megillah, page 55, verse 265, and hold on. Page 55, verse 265 and 266, along with a footnote. I see this coming into play. Hold on. Let me look at that real quick. What you said, page 55? Oh, I flipped right to it. 55, 265. I'll read it. Thank you, Jasmine. I'll read it. Okay. So on page 55, this is Nazarene Book of Genesis, chapter 9, verse 265 to 266. It says, matter of fact, I'll go back up one. No. Let me go to 260, right? This is when Lucifer, matter of fact, Lucifer had tricked him into killing the animal and eating. And now he had just told Adam that he should go rape Eve, right? Okay. So verse 260 says, and the soul that was attracted, hold on, let me go back up. Verse 255. Then Lucifer whispered in the ear of Adam how he was to take Eve and make her pregnant. Hold her down and take her. You are stronger than her and need not ask permission. If you force her rather than ask her, the baby you make will be stronger. And I would say stronger in the line of sin and away from the creator, right? Based on what I know now. If you force her rather than ask her, right? Remember, so the dark side of path is always forcing somebody. Creator said you can ask, right? You don't violate anybody else's will, just like I don't violate your will, right? Even nature, if you violate nature, nature will respond to you. The creator, they're like, see, God got you. No, they violated, or they violated nature. Nature should be respected as well, right? If you force her rather than ask her, the baby you make will be stronger. So it was that Adam took Eve by the hair and pulled her to him. Then he held her down and entered her, not asking for permission and listening not to her words. And this was very different from when Adam and Eve had made love in the center of the garden. And the soul that was attracted was very different from that of Abdiel. Yea, the soul that incarnated in the womb of Eve was very dark indeed. Lo, the floodgates were now open. With the killing of animals and the rape of Eve, Many dark souls were attracted to this world, and this was not according to the plan of Abraham and Sarah. Some of these dark souls came to incarnate so that they could kill and eat flesh. Others came to hover disembodied, feeding on emotional pain like parasites. But Abraham and Sarah sent other souls to incarnate in this world, some who were young but not dark, which were those of this which were those this world was meant for, and some very bright souls to be helpers and teachers. And after teachers is reference number 5. It says, even in the Orthodox New Testament, there is a reference to this mixing of good seed and bad seed. In Matthew chapter 13, verses 24 through 31, Jesus said, the kingdom of heaven is likened unto a man who sowed good seed in his field. But his enemy came and sowed weeds among the wheat and went his way. But when the wheat was sprung up, then appeared the weeds also. So the servants of the man said, do you want us to go and pull out the weeds? But the man said, no, because you might also uproot the wheat before it's time. Let them both grow together until harvest. And this is kind of, thank you for this, Jasmine. This is kind of like that, right? And so if you get back to the same-sex marriages and everything, should we just go kill them all? No.
Yes.
Don't.
Sorry.
He's 18. No.
19.
He's 19.
But no, I'm not really like that. I'm very calm. I prefer peace over anything.
Right. He really does. He really does. Drive safe, son. All right. So even when it comes to that, right? Should we tell them no, they can't do this? He gave them the same. He said, listen, when Hannah and Mehetabel returned, Abdiel spoke, saying, all shall be free to love and marry whomsoever they choose, provided their chosen partner is of age. It agrees and is of age. No, not only shall your marriage be permitted, it shall be honored and respected without prejudice. And with that right there, that's the portion. Let me hop over in the WASP. In the WASP, it is. Hold on. Book of Judgment. 665. That was not the one I want to go to first. Hold on. I know I wrote my note down. Hold on, y'all. Where did I write this down at? First footnote. Hold on. Oh. Book of Wars. Okay, that's where I want to go. Book of Wars, chapter 53. Book of Wars is on page... Book of Wars Against Jehovah, page 317 is where it begins. But go to page 383. Verses, I put verses 9 and 10, but I think we should probably read the entire chapter, right? Okay, so now this is kind of verifying the information that he gave to the same-sex marriages. I mean, not saying that, but listen to the wisdom of Creator and how he responded to the false gods. Okay, so we know the false gods are those ones who come and they act like their creator, right? And they lead nations of people astray. You got all these different religious sects forcing them to do things, putting all these rules on them. and like you don't get a mind of your own. You don't think this is what our Bible says or this is what our Torah says, and you have to follow it just like this. That is not Creator that's doing that, right? And WASP makes that really, really clear. It really, really teaches us about Creator's free will that He's given to everybody, right? And for us to be able to choose. Vanette says, Lucifer loves to show with his version how things should go according to his way. The lesson is for us to love all people without judging them. We are not the Creator. I agree with that. Okay. Hold on. Oh, thank you for that. Right. If you can pull that up, I forget where that was at, but I remember that. Tabitha said, family, I read a verse in Owaspy where the familiar spirit was molesting the young couple in a sexual manner. The couple was unaware of what was happening to them. If you can find that, pull it up and I'll read it. Okay. Listen. Okay. So I'm going to read this whole chapter 53 on page 383 in the lowest edition in big blue. Listen to this. Chapter 53 in the Book of Wars Against Jehovah. This was an amazing book. And this goes, it gives detail on a lot of the different ways and how some of the once human beings who have raised a little bit higher decided to walk away from the path and light of Creator and helping people. They wanted their own kingdom now, right? Not fully grown. They didn't realize they were going to get their own kingdom in the days to come, but they wanted it now before they had fully developed, and Creator allowed it. You want it, and then he told everybody else, leave them alone and respect their wishes. It's literally good. I just summed it up, but the last few verses, this is literally what Creator said. He said, let them go. That's what they chose. Everybody respect their wishes, and I don't expect anybody to give them any flack about it. I'm just like, whoa. Now that is freedom for your tail. Listen. Verse 1. Jehovah had said, I created man blank as to good and evil and gave him liberty. This is Creator, right? Creator, when it's talking about the ever-present, Eloah, Jehovah, the All, the Great Spirit. These are just some of the names that OISP shares with us that different nations of people spoke when they gave Creator a name, with how they, that's the name that they called him based on their language, regional world where they're at, right? And Jehovah is just another version of Eloah, right? Eloah, Elohai. Jehovah had said, I created man blank as to good and evil and gave him liberty, right? So when you came, you're a blank sheet of paper, you know, there, I ain't got no restrictions or anything. You're a blank sheet of paper. You're here to grow. Gather your lessons, right? Work out the formulas. Figure it out, right? Jehovah has said, I created man blank as to good and evil and gave him liberty. And I gave liberty also to the spirits of the dead. But these spirits set themselves up as gods and glorified themselves, and to glorify themselves used mortals in their own way. For they found that mortals could be turned to good or evil, to war or peace, to virtue or to lust, according to the inspirations of the angels watching over them. And this is why it's good that you make sure you're walking in the ways and the light of Creator, because the angels or the ancestors that follow you, either they're going to be on shenanigans or they're going to be on the paths of life, right? And whatever they given to you, they're going to be given to your posterity as well, right? So remember that. But these spirits of the dead, and this is also how some people can feel like the oppression of the different spirits around them. And like Tabitha said up here, familiar spirits molesting a young couple in a sexual manner, and the couple was unaware of what was happening to them. When you're spiritually dense, you don't understand a lot of times what's happening spiritually, and you just gotta you find you find some other reason to, or some way to answer your question the best way you can. Prince said, hold on. So question, do the Lewis work in inspiration of same-sex marriage? let me clarify. Okay. So question, do the Lewis work in inspiration of same-sex marriage? And then he said all marriage is inspired or arranged by the Lewis. So remember what we just read, and I think you can answer your own question. Listen, I'm going to start over. Jehovah had said, I created man blank as to good and evil and gave him liberty. And I gave liberty also to the spirits of the dead. But these spirits set themselves up as gods, and to glorify themselves, use mortals in their own way. For they found that mortals could be turned to good or evil, to war or peace, to virtue or to lust, according to the inspiration of the angels watching over them. So I would say some angels do inspire same-sex marriages, right? It's if they walking out of line of creator, they will inspire it to happen, right? Because they have free will too, not just us, but the spirits of the dead. When you leave here, you will also have free will, which is why you can be influenced by the spiritual realm around you, right? So, but you have to be aware of which spirits you are being influenced by, right? Okay, so let me go down here. And I saw a couple comments about arranged marriages. They do it. Some people think it's good. Logically it would seem okay, and some people they don't have a choice. They feel like they don't have a choice, so they've been made to feel like they didn't have a choice, and they have to go along with it depending on where in the world they're at when it happens. And some of them grow into it and they learn to love one another, respect one another, and others they absolutely despise it. And if at any time they could break free, they running, and you ain't gonna see nothing but a cloud of smoke, right? So although I can see how it has its benefits, especially if you are a wealthy family and you want to keep the wealth inside and make sure it's not squandered. I can see why you want to add to your wealth and form partnerships and joint ventures with other families and their empires. I can see that, and if you're going to do that, I think both parties need to be in agreement. I don't think it should be forced, right? If this is going to be a mutual agreement to grow our business empires, then yes, I'll marry your daughter, and yes, I'll marry your son. And it's just icing on the cake that he looked good and that she looked good. How the parents look when they got older? They look good too. Oh, okay. I got something to look forward to when you get older too. Okay, I'm in agreement with this contract. Let's go. Arrange this marriage. Where do I sign my name? Right? Audrey said, I think if marriages are arranged, people will be in marriages where they're not happy. Parents are naturally going to choose partners they think is best for you, but only you know what is best for you, right? Right, because you got to live with them ninjas. Right? And you go tell them what's happening, and they can't really do anything but offer you their advice. I mean, some may go as far as to, especially if there's a violent type of situation going on, they're gonna try and go in there and correct it with firepower. Hold on. I further read in Megillah that they go by the law of intervention, and the only time they intervene is when something is of a negative force trying to attack. Kind of like the law here, right? And I don't necessarily disagree with that either, right? Because the law is for the lawless, and if somebody's going to get hurt in some type of way, the law will intervene. Think about what Judah did for Rhea at the when she was trying to ascend the mountain the other day when we read, and the messengers, the minions of Lucifer went and let her pass. She just following the call, the drum beat, the heartbeat that she heard. No, you can't pass. Judah heard the call as well, and on the way he saw this happening to her, and he intervened. Right? I think intervention has its proper places, and I think it is needed at times, especially if someone is being abused or somebody's getting hurt, being taken advantage of, right? Then you do need intervention. And I think that is of creator, right? Because we're to love, and you're violating the laws of love. Now, somebody needs to intervene because you have no self-control, and this person is utterly defenseless to defend themselves against you. And it was just her, and there was a few men standing there. How could she defend herself against that? Right? So somebody had to intervene. And I think it's needful. I really do. Okay. All right, so let's go back to this. I'll start over. Jehovah had said, I created man a blank as to good and evil and gave him liberty. And I gave liberty also to the spirits of the dead. But these spirits set themselves up as gods, and to glorify themselves, used mortals in their own way. For they found that mortals could be turned to good or evil, to war or peace, to virtue or lust, according to the inspiration of angels watching over them. Think about the little babies twerking on TikTok, right? Babies, like 2, 3, even 6-year-olds, even like they come in here as blank slates. Depending on the atmosphere you put them in, you turn them into what that atmosphere is, right? And I get heated when I see this tiny little flesh popping all over the screen and people laughing and thinking it's cute. Bella almost got her head taken off her shoulders when we saw that. My sister said, girl, Bella on TikTok. And I'm like, and Lanisha was like, first of all, how she learn how to move like that? I was like, girl, I don't know. I was like, little girl. And then James saw it. So absolutely not. I went through, it literally took me, and I would say it's my fault because it was my phone. I let her get the phone, and cat videos and dog videos of me not paying attention. She watching these dance videos, all these other kids and all this other stuff, and they doing and recorded videos. The mini Murphs had recorded like 300 TikTok videos under our family TikTok account. Mind you, I had only uploaded like 5 videos from like our family vacation a couple years ago. And I just hadn't picked it back up. But Bella got it. They figured out how to do it. And I had to go through that day. She told me that it literally took me 2 hours, about 2 hours to go through and delete every video that they had uploaded to that TikTok. I'm surprised they didn't shut that TikTok down. It had all kind of warnings up there. I was like, oh my God, what did you get this warning for? Like, what was played? Like, because sometimes you do the videos and all kind of music will play in the background, even music with curse words and all this stuff and vulgar type music and some of this, and they weren't choosing the music. They just whatever, put it up there and go, and I was like, what? I'm like, oh my God. I'm like, oh Lord, people gonna think they probably already think I'm ratchet, but they probably think I let her do this. And so I killed it. I deleted it from my phone, but when I put it back up there, I changed my password and everything. So like they don't have access to it, at least not from my phone or even my iPad, So but we're blank slates. And like I said, depending on the atmosphere and creators, depending on your atmosphere, you're gonna get turned one way or the other, right? And so in this way, your guardians or your parents, whoever's watching over you, raising you up, you're kind of like you kind of serve the same purpose that your angelic helpers, Messenger, Lewis, Ashars, serve in the spiritual realm. And if you ratchet, your angel's gonna be ratchet. And y'all all gonna walk down this ratchet path together, right? Because Wasby tells us, if you continue on in doing things, again, and I'm summing it up, if you continue on doing things in ways that don't line up with the ways of life, you attract those spirits to you, and you just get more of that, and they influence you to do more of that. But as soon as you turn back to the paths of righteousness, the angels of the Heavenly Father and the earthly mother is right there like, sis, what you trying to do? What you trying to do? Right? And they help you clear all that out, and you get back on the path of life. But when you constantly walking in ways of darkness, the light, it just backs up from you, right? Because you have free will, and they're not going to force you. They're a voice that keeps speaking, you don't go that way. That's not a good idea. And all they can do is give you advice, but we have to choose. That's what the Father has set in place, which is why they back up. That's why sometimes they will not intervene if you are of age and you are making this choice, right? They will not intervene but we have seen in places where they will intervene, right? Especially when there is somebody helpless. It could be a child or older. Now it's like, what about, well, when a child is helpless and they don't intervene and this terrible thing happens to them, or their life is taken early, they couldn't help themselves. The atmosphere that they were in, maybe it was devoid of the lights, where the angels of light, they just weren't there. They couldn't control that, not, I ain't gonna say control that region. I'm not even gonna say that they lost authority, right? But according, it OSB just really makes this clear with the atmosphere. That's why we have to be aware not just of here and now, but also of the unseen realm. And what we do here and now in this fleshly realm, it either strengthens the kingdom of light that is unseen, that helps us, or it strengthens the kingdom of darkness that's going to continue to allow our lives to go down the drain. And everybody within that same atmosphere, it will affect, right? Okay. Jehovah has said, I created man a blank as to good and evil and gave him liberty. And I gave liberty also to the spirits of the dead. But these spirits set themselves up as gods, and to glorify themselves, use mortals in their own way. For they found that mortals could be turned to good or evil, to war or peace, to virtue or lust, according to the inspiration of the angels watching over them. But in this, excuse me, but in this I provided a remedy also. And without abridging liberty, listen, hold on. But in this I provided a remedy also, and without abridging liberty, which was that the gods in contention for mortal souls should fall out and ultimately destroy their own heavenly kingdoms, wherefrom angels and mortals should escape from bondage. And this was so. Tayan and Sudga and Osiris, even whilst their wars and machinations were going on with mortals, were scheming for mastery in Hada, the lowest heaven. Hada is what the Christian church calls hell, right? It's not under us. It's that first level of heaven that is so closely intertwined with us, where we can feel all the shenanigans from, right? And this was so. Tayan and Suga and Osiris, even whilst their wars and machinations were going on with mortals, were scheming for mastery in Hada, the lowest heaven, each to overthrow the others and involve them in ruin. And it thus came to pass that a triangular war ensued in these two heavens, in which upward of 10,000 million warring angels were engaged hundreds of years. For as mortals engage in corporal warfare, so do angels engage in Essean warfare. For though they cannot kill one another, they bind and enslave and cast one another into hells and surround them with never-ending fire so that they cannot escape. And a lot of people think that the creator will throw you in the hell. The creator is not doing this. It's the false gods that are creating this for you. Christianity that tells you if you don't worship Jesus Christ, if you don't worship, they need to replace this particular Jesus Christ in the New Testament with Luamung, because Luamung is the false god behind this particular gospel in the New Testament, which is why a lot of the miracles the authentic miracles, most of the time you don't see, or it doesn't stick. And those who are preaching it, a lot of time they're constantly falling. They can't gain control of themselves because a lot of the times they're really not under the inspiration of creator nor his angels. They're under the inspiration of Luamung and those who have fallen away from creator. That's why all of the church shenanigans are going on, because it really is not correctly aligned with creator. It is aligned under the doctrines of these false gods who have blinded the eyes of those sincere people who would truly like to serve creator. Their eyes have been blinded and now they worship Luamung, right? But they've changed the name, and they've given the name of the person they worship a name of a real person who people we thought was real, we know is real. They were good, but no. Remember the whole process of the false gods, what they do, they take the names of righteous men and women and they assume those positions. So now it's false gods. He didn't change his name to Jesus Christ. Yes, I'm Jesus Christ. but it's really Luamung in disguise. Just like what happened in the garden when Lucifer was masquerading as Yahweh. Yes, I'm Yahweh because Lord thy God said so. This is what Yahweh says, right? Adam and Eve hadn't realized, but they were getting that still small voice. Hey, don't do that. The voice of Creator is not down the river bend by the bushes near Cush. The voice of Creator comes from within, and Eve said something about it. This is a different type of voice, but let us go listen because they're not paying attention to the details, right? The devil is always in the details. If the Christians would wake up and look at the details, they would find the devil staring them in the face. For as mortals engage in corporal warfare, so do angels engage in Essean warfare. For though they cannot kill one another, they can bind and enslave and cast one another into hells and surround them with never-ending fire so that they cannot escape. And the warring gods send their armies forth to make captives of their enemies who, when seized, are either made subjects of or else cast into torments. And these armies of warring angels, hundreds of millions strong, go into the kingdom of another God, and without suburban district, and these armies of warring angels, hundreds of millions strong, go into the kingdom of another God, and out of the suburban districts, carrying hence the subjects with all their acquisitions. And yet at times these raiding armies venture too far, and they are themselves captured and cast into torments, so that gods in Hada or hell wall their kingdoms round with standing armies, even as they have taught mortals to defend themselves, and their enemies seek to invent means to break these armies through and go in and plunder and destroy. And people that are having dreams about they're going to hell and they're going to be in hellfire, that is nothing more than the false gods giving you these dreams to frighten you into doing their will. Creator does not do that. When you are frightened into doing something for fear that you're going to go to hell, you're going to lose your salvation, that is not Creator. That should be the first red flag that goes up. If you are being forced to make a decision or to go a certain way, that automatically takes away your free will. I don't care what it is you're trying to make a choice on, or you're trying to see your way through, even if it is whether you want to commit adultery or decide to get married to someone of the same sex, or choose to. Now, we can give you our advice on why we don't think is good and how tests have shown, even medical advice shows that this is not the right way to go. Like, you're not going to be able to reproduce. You're going to lose all your butt muscles is going to be stripped, and that ain't right. And we ain't supposed to have to walk. You ain't supposed to have, that ain't the side supposed to be plugged up, right? You should leave it alone. It has its own plugging, its own tightness. You go in doing this, violating the laws of life, you strip it of its power. And now you got to go around here. No, let me not. Stop. Okay. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Okay. All right. Let me finish this. But y'all get the point, right? Y'all get the point. When things begin to happen to you that shouldn't, it's not a natural part of life, it should cause you to question. It should cause you to consider your ways and why is this happening? Okay, this is happening. Could I have violated something? Right? Like, seriously, could I have violated a law of my body? Because this is not a normal thing, So maybe that doesn't go there. Maybe nothing is supposed to go there. Maybe it is truly only an exit, right? Because if you enter, it could cause disease. That's not natural, right? We need to go through the process of elimination, right? Seriously, you came in as a blank piece of paper. It's test time for you. You should be gathering information, right? Okay, yeah, that doesn't work. Yep, because, no, that shouldn't be loose like that. Okay, yeah, maybe. Okay, we need to pros and cons, like all of these things. Creator gives us the opportunity. He gives us the freedom to work through this, right? This is literally a school, right? And we're the ones who are going to be graded on it. We literally get grades, right? We'll get graded individually. We'll be graded as individual families together. We'll be graded on communities, our nations will be graded, right? And if we lack love and helping our brethren and our Malachi. Chestnuts roasting on an open fire, right? Listen, look, we're going to be graded. Now we could give them, some of us would even go as far as force, and we'll alienate them if they don't choose the choices we think that they should. Now, in a higher scheme of things, in a higher light of things, when Creator looks at this, okay, so now look, okay, so like my professor in school, right? So in our graduate classes, we use Microsoft Teams, right? And so with this particular professor I have some professors that, okay, we don't use Teams that much, but this one particular professor, every time you have him, he's breaking y'all out into groups. He said, I'm grading everybody together. He said, you work together, do the individual work. He said, some may have more strength than others. He said, I'm going to leave that to y'all to figure out. He said, but when you turn in the paper, everybody's going to get the same grade. Now, a couple people started asking questions, and he said he always get questions from all of the, just the different terms that he have. He said there's probably always going to be somebody that does more work than another person, and somebody won't credit for all the work that they did. He said, but you got to realize this is a team effort. You have to learn how to work together in a team. Somebody may be good at this, then put them on this task. This is what you do because you're proficient here. You excel in this. We need you over here. Somebody else may be good over here. You put them there. He said, you have to learn. He said, figure out your strengths amongst one another. Help each other in your weaknesses. He said, but when you turn it in, he said, I don't care if one person didn't do any work at all, but if they're a part of your group, they're going to get the same grade. Right? If one person did the whole work of the group, and you get a good grade, then good. But how did it help your other teammates grow? Right? So I'm beginning to look at this in a bigger light of things. So we could alienate people. Well, I'm doing the work right. Get it together. I don't know about you, but the Creator's looking at that like you just a part of the problem, because if they need help, why would you alienate them? And a lot of times people may not want to hear your advice, and that's okay, because that happens. But neither should you try to force your advice on anybody else either, because we humans, we can feel the vibes that people are giving us, right? We can feel the vibes, and we know somebody not listening. If we pick that up, just back it up, right? Don't force it, because when people are ready to listen or they really want to know, they'll come searching for you. They'll ask a question. Nazarene scene. That ain't the rabbit hole you want to go in. Listen, look, no, seriously though, we be doing this joking around about the men, but what about the women? They don't. And what's crazy is there's a bigger, I guess you can say, stigma with men same-sex relationships than it is with women, right? And it's a stereotype. They just look at just the way the it's gonna work, and it's like they just assume that this is worse than this. Like, people can stomach two women, but they can't stomach two men, right? And it's like, that's just not natural. But it's like, if you got two women, a man look at it, he's like, it's a party now, can I join? Right? And I'm just like, the way we think about all of this stuff is just it's all messed up all the way around, right? So, but Creator, the whole point of all this is Creator gives everybody free choice. We don't have to agree with their choices. But if we can help in any way, or excuse me, did we get to that part yet? Hold on, because I want to finish reading that part over here in the Megillah. I'm gonna go back and I'm gonna read a few more of the verses there, and but we're gonna have to pause it. But I want to finish reading this chapter. But it just goes in, and he said, let me just sum it up. Don't alienate them because of their choices. Right now, you can lay some things in place. Well, I'm not gonna be around this. Okay, and that's your choice. But the whole point is, when Creator grades us as a whole, or grades our communities, grades our families, even if we're not looking at it, we're still going to be graded. We have to make sure that we are we're not allowing our how can I say this? Let me make sure I say this the right way. We have to make sure we're not letting our biases trip us up, right? But also there has to be a mutual respect. I think there needs to be a mutual respect of people who live certain life. Okay, so you know how, and I've seen them when I hear some people talk about it. Some people who live certain lifestyles, they know that their parents don't agree with, or maybe grandma, whatever, so they don't bring it around them, right? Because they don't want to tear up the relationship, and they know they feel this way, so but it'll cause them to live a secret life, which it starts another whole type of monster going on the inside of them. But for the sake of the relationship and sparing it, that's why people stay in the closet, so to speak, right? And it's just a lot of different things people have to deal with. Now, some people choose to go on this lifestyle. Some people feel like they're forced to go into this lifestyle based on maybe different things that may have happened when they were younger. Maybe they've been abused, molested, or something. And now, because of that, it sparks some things and feelings on the inside of them that they can't control, like all of these different things. So there was a perversion in them that they had the situation that happened with them. For people that happened this way, there was something that they couldn't control at that time. So now they, even though they want to be healed, they don't know how. You got people around them that they don't know how to handle it. So it's just they handle it the best way they can, and sometimes it's not the best way, and it causes rift in relationship. It causes a deeper hurt, a deeper gauge, and it's like everything is a mess. And then we just gonna ignore it. That's the family member we don't talk about, but that doesn't help. And creator greatness as a whole, like, all y'all feeling, right? You're not talking to one another. You're not even listening. And a lot of times the I think sometimes we look at the people who have chosen to live this type of lifestyle, and a lot of time they can become, I think they're I don't know, from what I've experienced, and it's no disrespect to anybody, sometimes their anger can really be on 10. They go all the way to the other end of the spectrum. And then sometimes when they love, they over love, because they always gotten hate towards them, and their love go all the way to the other end of the spectrum, where it's like unbalanced, right? So you still dealing in a bunch of things being unbalanced, and it's like, how do we bring the balance back here, right? But in order to bring back the balance, we have to talk about it, right? And when we talk about it, we got to really put our feelings to the side, our biases to the side, because it's not about us. And that's a lot of times how people deal with this. It's about me and how I feel. But what about the person that's hurt, that's dealing with this, that has made this choice? Some people are living this lifestyle because they felt they were forced into it. They don't enjoy it, but this is just become a part of me. This is who I am now. They've embraced it, right? And they feel it's okay, But I've had people that I thought, like, you were okay, but then when you get alone, they talk about it. They're like, I really don't want to live this way. I really don't. But it's just been this way so long, and I feel like, this is not it. I would like a normal relationship. You have those type of people. Some people say, no, this is it. But it's people that's they're in that gray space, and they're trying to weigh it, and they're really trying to adjust their lives, but then they have to deal with the rejection of people, and like all these things. Everybody's projecting what they feel on everybody else when it's not even about you. What can we do to help? What can I do to help? Y'all seen that TV series, New Amsterdam? Oh boy, from the time that thing came on, I don't know who created that series. I think it's on Amazon. It's called New Amsterdam. It takes place in a hospital. And I'm just like, when my husband almost bust out in an ugly cry. He said, hold on, cut this off. We couldn't get past the second episode. And I would say that I'm gonna go back to it, but I just gotta, when you watch it, you just gotta be ready to cry. Like the waterfalls are gonna come, because It's one of those series that it restores your faith in humanity, because in there they go, I'm just kind of give you a quick overview. They go into a setting of a hospital where doctors are there. They doing this, they just passing down mandates because this is my job, my paycheck, and this is what the people gonna get, without even really taking time. Now, we know all doctors are not like that, but there are some, and this is not, I'm not giving medical advice and whatever, I'm just telling you about this series. Y'all should go check out. So they got a new head person at the hospital, and he came in there, and he's really there to help. He don't really care about the money, the people who can't pay, all of this stuff. He said let's just care about people. All this other stuff, all the politics around it, let's put all that to the side. Let's really listen to them. Let's see what's the best way, even if they can't pay, right? If they got to go on, he said we need to change this. He said the problem, it's not them and their ability not to pay, it's us and how we're looking at it, because we want to turn them away because they can't, and we give them we do them a disservice, you know. So he said, in everything, how can I help, right? How can I help? And by them just totally changing their outlook and how they actually deal with the people coming there, how can I help? Like, genuinely, how can I help? You know, and it just like, I don't know whoever created that. It's really amazing. Y'all have to go check that out when you get a chance. But take some tissues with you. Like my husband don't shed a tear for nothing. Like when I say he a alpha male, nothing. Like, what? Pull yourself together. You'll be all right. You know, and he's just like, wait a minute, hold on. What? Cut this off. After the first, he's like, okay, maybe this is just the first one. Okay, this is pretty good though. We'll let the second one play. After the second one, because we was laying in the bed, he got it. He's like, He got it. He's like, whoo, what in the world? He said, cut it off. Cut it off. So I'm like, man, and I'm sitting there, oh, ugly crying stuff. But it was so good. It was so good. All right, y'all. Dana, hey girl, hey, look, I just hopped down here. I hopped down here. She said, love that show, but it's a doozy if you only watch 2 episodes. Plot twist. What? Yeah, I only watched the first 2. Okay, I gotta go back. It's very emotional. Malachi, no need to hate anyone. Show love regardless. We're not here to dictate anyone's resurrection and only assist if needed. I love that. We are here to assist if needed, right? Okay, so let me go back to this. Let me finish reading this, what a WASPy say about this. Listen. For as mortals engage in corporal warfare, where we at? That I started in the middle of verse 3. We get into the point where the creator is talking about free will, right? And not abridging liberty. Matter of fact, let me just go back. Okay, who we at? Y'all got to go to work. Go ahead and get out of here. Jehovah has said, I created man the blank as to good and evil, and gave him liberty. I gave liberty also to the spirits of the dead. But these spirits set themselves up as gods, and to glorify themselves, use mortals in their own way. For they found that mortals could be turned to good or evil, to war or to peace, to virtue or to lust, according to the inspiration of the angels watching over them. But in this I provided a remedy also, and without abridging liberty, which was that the gods in contention for mortal souls should fall out and ultimately destroy their own heavenly kingdoms, wherefrom angels and mortals should escape from bondage, right? So highlight that. Okay, so what he said, even though that they're going to lead them astray, eventually there's going to come a time, in order for them to raise up, they're going to go and they're going to destroy their own kingdom. Because remember, and that normally only happens after they themselves, the false god, have been cast into a hell knot. And the kingdom that they amassed to themselves turned on them and realized, you were a false god and you led us astray. Now all of them down in hell with the false god at the middle, they beating them, kicking them, and he done passed out here unconscious. Save me, the real Jesus Christ. Or not, that's not who he calling out. He calling out for real creator. At this time, you was right, I was wrong. I asked for a kingdom too early. Come get it, come take it. He said, no, your judgment is, you wanted a kingdom, you still gonna have a kingdom. That same kingdom you amassed yourself, I'm giving it back to you. They like, I want it not. And that's what they say, I want it not. Nope. Give me white clothes, take all the jewelry, I don't need all the pomp and the splendor. I will be your servant. But no, 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 no. You see what you've created? You got a whole kingdom over here. You're responsible for that. You have to go clean that up. So I'm giving you your kingdom back to yourself, back to you. Yes, you get it back. All of it, every single one of them, right? And you have to fix it. Raise them up, teach them what's right. And when you all come up to the same level of understanding and knowledge, we'll graduate your class together. And you can all go together, side by side, brother and sister, no one higher than the other, right? Everybody will go to the next level together. But you're in charge of that. Listen. For they found that mortals could be turned to good or evil, to war or peace, to virtue or lust, according to the inspiration of the angels watching over them. But in this is what Creator said, but even in this I provided a remedy. And without abridging liberty, without taking away your free will or free choice, but in this I provided a remedy also, and without abridging liberty, which was that the gods in contention for mortal souls, those that's fighting to amass and win them souls to yourself, whether you coming over here to Islam, you coming over here to the Church of Jesus Christ, to the Latter-day Saints, or whatever, y'all, we all fighting for souls of mortals to come over to your religion. Here's what I'm gonna tell you what I'm gonna do. But in this I provided a remedy also, and without abridging liberty, which was that the gods in contention for mortal souls should fall out and ultimately destroy their own heavenly kingdoms, wherefrom angels and mortals should escape from the bondage, right? I think Luamong is in remission, and he's trying to destroy his own kingdom that he's built in the church. And not only him, but the other false gods. And how is that proven? Because we've broken free. We're waking up, and all of this is being exposed, and all this information is coming to us. What? And he like, help me. Look, Luamong is like, help me destroy this crap that I've built up so we can all rise up together. Like, help me, right? Nothing more than what we shall be in the days to come. Luamong and the false gods are nothing more than one-time humans that have ascended from this level and in the spiritual realms. They still within Earth's realms because they have not ascended to Etheria yet. You cannot ascend to Etheria when you still got shenanigans in your shanana. It ain't gonna happen. Yes, they got to clean their own toilet, right? They got to clean their own toilet. But in this I provided a remedy also, and without abridging liberty, which was that the gods in contention for mortal souls shall fall out and ultimately destroy their own heavenly kingdoms, wherefrom angels and mortals should escape from bondage. And this was so. Tayan and Suga and Osiris, even whilst their wars and machinations were going on with mortals, were scheming for mastery in Hada, the lowest heaven, each to overthrow the other and involve them in ruin. And it came to pass that a triangular war ensued in these two heavens, in which upward of 10,000 million warring angels were engaged hundreds of years. For as mortals engaged in corporal warfare, so do angels engage in Aegean warfare. For though they cannot kill one another, they can bind and enslave and cast one another into hells and surround them with a never-ending fire so they cannot escape. And the warring gods send their armies forth to make captives of their armies, who, when seized, are either made subjects of or else cast into torments. And these armies of warring angels, hundreds of millions strong, go into the kingdom of another god, and out of suburban districts, carrying hence the subjects with all their acquisitions. And at times these raiding armies venture too far and are themselves captured and cast into torments, so that gods in Hada wall their kingdoms round with standing armies, even as they had taught mortals to defend themselves. And their enemies seek to invent means to break these armies through and go in and plunder and destroy. In times of which madness, no voice of Jehovah's angels can gain an attentive ear among them, even the same as when mortal kings are at war. For one to say to them, behold, Jehovah is all peace, they will even curse Jehovah and peace. So do the fighting angels threaten and curse if one of Jehovah's holy ones interpose in peace and love, right? It's the same type of thing we're talking about. They said, because when they get to going, this is why the angels of light, they back up. They don't want to violate free will, even if they're just, you don't want to do this, you don't want to do this, don't, that's wrong. They will turn and spit and curse you for even interrupting the violence that they want to ensue, because they've already been riled up by the false gods and the unseen forces to do this, and they back up, right? You go ahead and have that, homie. Go ahead. Go ahead and have it, right? You'll call for us when you need us. Listen, in times of madness, and a lot of time that's what we're in times of madness, in times of which madness, no voice from Jehovah's angels can gain an attentive ear amongst them, even the same as when mortal kings are at war. For one to say to them, behold, Jehovah is all peace, they will even curse Jehovah and peace. So do the fighting angels threaten and curse if one of Jehovah's holy ones interpose in peace and love. As like a burning fever or canker worm that needeth run its course, before a healing balm availeth good, so Jehovah permitteth the gods to pursue their reign, till helpless they fall, and vine in the harvest they sow. And so we're reading all of this to weigh this information that Abdiel has just given to these two women that asked if they could marry, right? And we saw, I asked y'all the question, I let y'all answer, was the information that Abdiel gave to these two women that wanted to get married any different from the information that he gave to the heterosexual couples, the man and the woman? He gave them, it said he had to go into prayer, like, because we never thought about this particular, he said exactly, hold on. Behold, in the early days of the Kabutsa, two women met with the high priest and asked if they were free to marry. Lo, Abdiel had not previously considered this possibility. The names of the women were Hannah and Mehetabel. Abdiel asked for time to contemplate their request. Abdiel spent the night in deep prayer and contemplation. He asked Elohim for guidance, and guidance was given, right? And so the guidance that was given was, when Hannah and Mehetabel returned, Abdiel spoke, saying, all shall be free to love and marry whomever they choose, provided their chosen partner agrees and is of age. Not only shall your marriage be permitted, but it shall be honored and respected without prejudice. Behold, this is the will of Elohim, right? And so is this the same advice they gave to the heterosexual couples? It absolutely is. Even the high priest, he would give his advice, but he would not, it says, at this time, the high priest gave his advice, but would not prohibit a marriage. Even if they thought you were too young or you're not the right one for the, it's your choice, right? We can give our advice, what we think, we can give our input, but it's up to you to take it, ponder it, assimilate it, meditate on it, but you still have to make a choice. And whatever choice you make, Creator has told us we have to respect, right? Even though we may not agree with it, but we're not to treat you any different based on the choice you make, right? Okay, so let's go back to this. Think about the remedy that Creator had given them, right? Back in verse 2. But even in this, I provide a remedy also, and without abridging liberty, which was that the gods in contention for mortal souls should fall out and ultimately destroy their own heavenly kingdoms, wherefrom angels and mortals should escape from bondage. Okay, hop back over here. Verse 5. As like a burning fever or canker worm that needeth run its course, before a healing balm availeth good. Right? He said, before the healing can take place, all the pus and it got to go out. It got to go out. Otherwise, the healing balm on top of it, it's not going to do any good, right? That's why when you got a nasty cut, you can't just put some Neosporin on top of that and all the dirt. You got to clean the dirt out. Listen, as like a burning fever or canker worm that needeth run its course, Creator lets us run our course with the choices we make, even if your family don't agree with it, even if it comes down to who you marry and it's the same sex, right? Without prejudice, let them choose, and you're not to treat them any different, right? Thank you. And that's with any sin, right? And we talked about that because we talked about divorce and all these other things, but it's not just with that, right? A lot of people, because of our atmosphere, and and I don't agree with it, but it's the same with abortion, right? But they don't realize there are spiritual consequences when you kill. Aborting a child is murder, right? According to spiritual laws and even natural law. Well, some natural, not some states it is, right? Even when former President Trump, he was in and they started talking about this, and he said, some people thought that he should just make it illegal in all states. What did he say? And I thought it was wise. At first, I was like, why would you do that? They let you do this, but he said, I'm handing that power back to the states, right? And he said the states will decide, right? Because y'all try and work this out on a lower level, right? Well, this is my body, I'm a woman, whatever. And it really does come down to the women, right? Most of the time it is. And it should really, it really comes down to the man and the woman, right? But if you don't want to have a baby, don't do the things that create a baby, right? So now you won't have to make one of these choices. Even if you do, still don't murder the baby, right? At least just go through the pregnancy, put the baby up for adoption, see if it's a family member, whatever. There are different ways to do this without bringing murder in the equation, because you heap more sins upon yourself and more blood upon your head, right? So, but I like that. That's what any sin, just me said. Listen, at verse 5 on page 383 in the Book of Wars Against Jehovah. I love the name of this book, Book of Wars Against Jehovah, Book of Wars Against the Creator, and all this law, all the false gods, everybody coming in here with false doctrine, we turning against the law. There's a whole book about this, and it's, how many chapters? It's 55? It's 55 chapters with all the different shenanigans from the false god against how they turn against Creator, right? And we can see bits and pieces of this in the different religions. As like a burning fever or cankerworm that needeth run its course before a healing balm availeth good, so Jehovah permitteth the gods to pursue their reign till helpless they fall, and vying in the harvest they sow. For a time cometh to every man and woman born on earth or in heaven, when sore disaster, if nothing else, will cast him helpless in agony to make him own the mighty power who created him. Oh, let me go back and read that again. This just got chills when I read it. You know how you get goosebumps? Oh my God. Yeah, you're doing all this foolishness now, but there's going to come a day when you come to the end of yourself and you're going to, like Pharaoh said, Moses, God is God. Amen. All right. Okay, listen. As like a burning fever or cankerworm that needeth run its course before a healing balm availeth good, so Jehovah permitteth the gods to pursue their reign till helpless they fall, and vying in the harvest they sowed. For a time cometh to every man, excuse me. For a time cometh to every man and woman born on earth or in heaven, when sore disaster, if nothing else, will cast him helpless in agony to make him own the mighty power who created him, and make him supplicate and pity for some helping hand to lead him safely to the all persons pleading voice, like, take me to the Creator. All right, when you come to the end of yourself, especially if you thick-headed or hard-headed, you don't believe nothing. You don't believe nothing, right? Creator said, let them go. And don't restrict them. Let them go. Respect their choices, right? Because they're going to come to the end of themselves and they're going to come back here. But be waiting for them, right? Be waiting for them and help them to heal and to restore. Okay, babe, love you. For a time cometh to every man and woman born on earth or in heaven, when sore disaster, if nothing else, like sometimes you just have to run into disaster. When sore disaster, if nothing else, will cast him helpless in agony to make him own the mighty power who created him, and make him supplicate and pity for some helping hand to lead him safely to the all persons pleading voice. Then he is ready to listen, to turn from gods and lords and saviors and sons who profess to save, and to stand upright before the Father and learn to know him, and willingly learn peace and love, reason, and truth. He said when he comes to this point, he's going to be sick of chasing the lords, the gods, everybody that profess to save and lead them in the right way. He's going to come directly to me. Oh my gosh, listen to this. I'm going to read it one more time. Listen. As like a burning fever or cankerworm that needeth run its course before a healing balm availeth good, so Jehovah permitteth the gods to pursue their reign till helpless they fall, and vying in the harvest they sow. For a time cometh to every man and woman born on earth or in heaven, when sore disaster, if nothing else, will cast him helpless in agony, to make him own the mighty power who created him, and make him supplicate and pity for some helping hand to lead him safely to the all persons pleading voice. Then he is ready to listen. Excuse me. I'm sorry, I need a sip of water. I was on a roll too. Hold on. Then he is ready to listen, to turn from gods and lords and saviors and sons who profess to save, and to stand upright. He says, stand upright and look at me. Don't bow down to the ground, casting down your crown. Stand up and look at me, right? Then he is ready to listen, to turn from gods and lords and saviors and sons who profess to save, and to stand upright before the Father, and to learn to know him, and willingly learn peace, love, reason, and truth. Jehovah hath said, in every soul I made a door, and in this my light shineth. Herein my voice speaketh, but they turn away and go after them that speak to the external ear. A serpent biteth them, and they are cast in poison and in death. Man on earth has said, I will not heed thy still small voice, O Jehovah, which speaketh to the soul. I will obey the king. Israel, give me a king. Give me a king. We want to do what the other nations do. You get a king. You got a king. You got multiple kings, and they led you away from the voice of the Creator, right? The ever-present, the all. Man on earth has said, I will not heed thy still small voice, O Jehovah, which speaketh to the soul. I will obey the king that leadeth on to war, and with loud noises and violent oaths pursue death, dealing as a virtuous trade. That's what Israel did, the terror of the earth. I will obey the king that leads on to war, and with loud noises and violent oaths pursued death, dealing as a virtuous trade. That's what Israel did. Taking everybody's stuff. Our God said, this our land, we taking it. You ain't got to look up. He said, give it to us, so we're going to take it. That's Israel. Yasharallah. Man on earth has said, I will not heed thy still small voice, O Jehovah, which speaketh to the soul. I will obey the king that leads on to war, and with loud noises and violent oaths pursue death, dealing as a virtuous trade. Not thou, O Jehovah, shall be my master, but their king who hath great pageantry. Behold, I will stand in his great armies, or be led on to death, even as the king willeth me, for he is my savior and my defense. His gods shall be my gods, his lords my lords, his savior my savior. By blood and heroic butcheries will I prove my loyalty. And even so have thousands of millions of angels in Hada said, not the still small voice of my soul will I obey, but yonder gaudy God, whose sacredness is so great none can approach him by crawling on their bellies. He shall be my Lord and Savior. His battles shall be my battles. To feed the hills of Hada with his enemies shall be my trade. And here's the main part we get into what Creator says. Again, he's going into a free will. Right. I agree with that. Grown folk going to do what grown folk going to do. My issue is media influencing children with this as normal and acceptable, right? But then we become the guardians, because media going to do what media going to do as well, right? But when the children are smaller, we are now the guardians of said media, right? We're the ones who give them the phones. We're the ones that give them the tablets. We're the one that makes sure we got Wi-Fi everywhere we go, even when we travel. Let me get a Wi-Fi so you can connect to it, right? Just like I gave a story about Bella. I gave Bella my phone. And what did Bella do? She was influenced by what she was saying, and she put a twerking TikTok video up. Did we get her? Yes, we got her, right? But we had to also get ourselves, right? We are just as much as we are just as much of the problem as they are, right? It's just like a marriage. One party cannot take all the blame. Everybody has something to do with this. Look, verse 9, Jehovah hath said, even to them that choose darkness and evil have I given liberty also, right? Even if they choose something you don't think they should choose, if it goes against your religion or whatever, according to Creator, he's given free liberty to all, whether they choose the light or they choose the darkness. He will not abridge their liberty, right? We got problems with that, but he doesn't. Listen, nah, my kids don't have devices. You see it in commercials and on kid shows. Look, listen, Jehovah has said, even to them that choose darkness and evil have I given liberty also, for they shall learn by experience in time to come that all these guides and leaders, be they kings or gods or lords or saviors, are but snares, from whom soon or late they must turn in order to rise out of the hells they have built for others. For because they put me afar off, or denied my person, or called me void like the wind, I cut them not off, but they cut themselves off from me, and thus fall into torments. He said, I never turn away. He said, they turn away from me, thus they cut themselves off. Matter of fact, that's what we see out through the Old Testament. You're going to cut yourself off, right? And it's like, oh my gosh, if I don't do this, I'm going to cut myself off. But by following the advice of the false gods, you by default cut yourself off from the Creator and light, but not even knowing, doing what's wrong, thinking you're doing what's right, right? Oh boy, you got to be very careful. You got to pay attention to the details. Jehovah hath said, even to them that choose darkness and evil have I given liberty also, for they shall learn by experience in time to come that all these guides and leaders, be they kings or gods or lords or saviors, are but snares, from whom soon or late they must turn in order to rise out of the hells they have built for others. For because they put me afar off, or denied my person, or called me void like the wind, I cut them not off, but they cut themselves off from me, and thus fell into torments. For I am as near to the Corporean as to the Essene. Let them then disown their kings and gods, and whomsoever hath a kingdom to glorify, and they shall espouse me, for I am ever present. For this all people shall do, either on earth or in heaven. My kingdoms are not by violence or by war, but by liberty to every soul. And whoso practiceth peace and love and liberty unto others are my chosen. They are on the way of everlasting resurrection. Right? So now that I had learned all of that before I got here, now it seems to me that the choice that Abdiel gave to these two women that came and said, can we marry? A woman want to marry another woman. Can we do that? Is that allowed? Right? And he said, I hold on. I need to go check. We ain't never came across this before. Right? So let's go back here. Right? Page 147, chapter 19. Matter of fact, and we're going to pause after this and we'll pick it back up. But let me just reread over this. But I'm going to keep it in its full context of what this was. But I got to finish reading down to, I think it's verse 50. Okay. All right. So let me start this over and then we'll be done. Keeping in mind all of what we just read. And after I read this, I want to ask y'all again, was the guidance that Abdiel, think about this now, after we've gone through all of this, was the guidance that Abdiel, the high priest, had given to him? Do you think the information he gave to these two women, do you think he was inspired by Lucifer, by the forces of darkness, or did you weigh it balanced on a scale according to the law of liberty that the Creator gave us? Right? I want you to weigh it and tell me, where do you think his guidance came from? He's the high priest, right? Remember everything that Abdiel just went through, how he's become a Christed one, right? And so even how he helped to restore his mother and his father, right, who had fallen in the beginning, right, and turned back to the ways of life, and they became Nazarites as well. Think about keep all of this together. Let me go back. All right. I'm gonna start at verse 1. Lo, life in the Nazarene kibbutza was blessed. The brethren and sisters worked hard, but loved their work, for Abdiel declared that each should perform the work of their heart. Yea, for 5 days of each 7 they worked at their trades. Then came a day of play, and the 7th day was a Sabbath. The day of play was on the day called Yom Eretz, which for short was called Yom Eretz, and Yom Eretz is Mother Earth Day. This was a good day for playing with the children, for behold, many children were born in the early years of the kibbutza, for many marriages were declared. And the way of Nazarene marriage and divorce was as follows. At age 18, Nazarene boys and girls were declared men and women. Then the men of the kibbutza gathered with the new man for his manhood ceremony. At this ceremony, the man offered advice on life to the new man. And the women of the kibbutza gathered with the new woman for her womanhood ceremony. At this ceremony, the women offered advice on life to the new woman. After this ceremony, the new adult was eligible for marriage, but had likely received much advice on the merits of waiting. Abdiel taught, and it had become Nazarene law that any adult was free to marry any other adult if both parties so desired. The couple must come before the high priest and declare their intention to marry. At this time, the high priest gave his advice, but would not prohibit a marriage. Also at this time, the couple informed the high priest as to what kind of ceremony they would prefer. Also, I forgot to pull up something. I forgot to pull up the scriptures from the Bible for y'all to look at to see. Hold on, let me pull it up real quick. Scriptures. Hold on, I want to go right to the scriptures, not that whole thing. Okay. Okay, we ain't talking about this. We clearly know you ain't supposed to do that. It's giving me all of them. It's giving me one about mankind, land with beasts and everything. We clearly know that, even though some people do that today and they think it's okay, but it's absolutely not. But it's crazy, but people choose that. I don't know why all this popped up. Okay. Okay. In Leviticus, okay, hold on, 20:18. Okay, so in the Bible, starting in Leviticus chapter 18, and as it's going through a lot of the community rules and the laws and the statutes, it gets into some of the sexual sins. And thou shalt not lie with mankind as with womankind. It is an abomination. Neither shalt thou lie with any beast to defile thyself therewith. Neither shall any woman stand before a beast to lie down thereto. It is confusion. This is Leviticus chapter 18, and I started at verse 22. Defile ye not yourselves in any of these things, for in all these things nations are defiled, which I cast out before you. And the land is defiled, therefore I do visit the iniquity thereof upon it, and the land itself vomited out her inhabitants. Ye shall therefore keep my statutes and my judgments, and shall not commit any of these abominations, neither any of your own nation, nor any stranger that sojourneth among you. For all these abominations have the men of one. For all these abominations have the men of the land done, which were before you, and the land is defiled. The land spew you not out when ye defile it, as it spewed out the nations that were before you. For whosoever shall commit any of these abominations, even the souls that commit them, shall be cut off from among their people. Now, do I agree that there should be some type of, there definitely should be some guidelines, especially if you have a nation and they are there. But everybody, they was like, okay, well, we know having sex with animals is wrong. We know that ain't nobody talking about that. but it is some people under the cover of darkness of night. They're doing that, right? I mean, they're few and far between, but it is still some people that's doing that, and that should not be done, right? You're just thinking about yourself. You ain't thinking about the animals, right? You're defiling the animals, and you're giving them no choice, right? You're taking away their liberty, and for them to live a life normally as the Creator created them, right? And this is a girl just got arrested for that. It's all kinds of stories. I mean, oh my God. I think this one that I saw, I think it was a spoof. I think I had mentioned it before. This dude tried it with an alligator. I'm like, bro, imagine that. First of all, the skin too tough. And where I don't know. In order to do that, you would have to flip it over, right? Because like, how do even alligators do that, right? It was crazy. But I think that particular one was a spoof story. But there were a few that I saw about sheep, women with dogs and horses and stuff, like all kinds of craziness. I'm like, clearly we know that this is common sense. But when it comes down to, okay, we ain't talking about animals, what about, if it's another human? But what if it's, the same sex? And we tend to lax a little bit on it, but still there's some, I think there needs to be a proper education, health education on the proper use of things. Maybe we should start with silverware. Let's start with the fork. Why was this created, right? And maybe there need to be, depending on how old you are, when they get into it, when they start talking about it and get into the details of it, instead of just, because some people you can, like I said, you can share your advice, but I think in these type of conversations, and I think you really need to bring in health education along with it. And when you violate laws of the body, when you I just saw your comment, just me. When you violate laws of the body, what begins to happen, right? And show medical proof. Not that we're trying to discourage you, but in a way we are. We want to make sure that you're not defiling yourself, you're not defiling anybody else, because once you choose to go down this road, now there are some, oh yeah, there, okay. Okay. Hold on. Let me see if I finish it, because I'm gonna have to bring this up. I'm gonna have to say this. Okay. I'll go back. Let me just bring this up. Okay. When we show them the physical things from the medical perspective on what happens, right? And it's this proof scene, right? If men are visiting the back door of other men, it causes the muscles and the anus to break down, right? You can't control things that you normally would be able to control, whether it's wind passing through or you're taking out the garbage, right? And men, I've from some of the stuff I've researched, they now are having to do some things that women have to do when they have their monthly menstrual cycle, and they wear pads. Like, that's not normal for a man, right? But also not just men doing it to women. The same thing happens, right? It's not natural, and all the people may not agree with me at whatever, but it's not the natural course of life that you take anything inside of there. That is literally only an exit, right? Only way supposed to exit from out of there. Nothing is supposed to go in, right? When we violate that, we get the repercussions when we see what happens when that's violated. That's proof to us that happens, right? Not only that, not only do you rip tissues and stuff, you could get hemorrhoids. You could get there's a lot of other things that could happen. My sister is in the medical field. She's literally a registered nurse. She's been in the medical field pretty much all her life. But there are a lot of other things that can happen as a result of that. It will happen with men and it will happen with women, which tells you that it's not natural for a woman to take it, nor for a man to take it, right? And just look, do the research. Let's pay attention. Put feelings aside. Let's deal with facts, right? Feelings aside. Let's deal with facts and what happens. Also, not only do I think we need to address the medical issues, right? And if a man is doing it to a woman, right? Not only are they doing that, but if they're not aware that this is where the garbage is taken out, and you decide once you didn't want to pay a visit back there, you want to go back through the front door without going bathing yourself, now you're going to cause her to have problems in both entrances of her house, the front and the back door. Now she got issues going on back here, and she got issues going up here, and it develops infections that happen there, right? And not only just like yeast and stuff like that, but bacterial vaginosis and all these other things. And what if you had been doing that to other people? And what if you have something in your system and you pass that, and you see where that's going? Dana is crazy. I seen some of that garbage. Look, the craziest part, people now identifying as animals that they want to get married. Listen, this is what comes with liberty, right? Even at the beginning of this, even at the beginning of the Holy Megillah, right? I forget exactly which chapter, but it was saying that with the great freedom is also going to come a great, what is it? A great sadness, because there will be those who choose to walk in ways of darkness. A lot of people are going to get hurt, right? A lot of people are going to get hurt by allowing this. But in the scheme of all things, in the realm of Ein Sof, which is infinite possibility, if y'all ever watch Avengers Endgame, looking into the realm of Ein Sof, what is the best outcome out of all the different ways that this could go? This is. But even if we pick this, there is definitely going to be some collateral damage along the way, but it's the best outcome for all those involved and for future generations. And that what was chosen. We're experiencing the fallout of the great sadness that comes along with the great freedom and free will and choice, right? People die before their time, right? People are taken advantage of. People just get over and thinking they're getting over, but they're not keeping in mind the spiritual fallout that happens as well. The blindness happens, and they think this is all that there is, right? And they don't realize that they're going to have to make amends for all of this stuff that they do in the flesh, because when they go into the spirit, they're going to realize that now they are really alive, and all these sins have followed them, and they have to correct it. Now you are without a body to anchor you, and now you have to do the best you can to help restore those in the flesh who can't see you. That's super superstitious and scary. They run at the sound of a falling leaf shaking. Right? Oh my gosh. And it's just like, oh my God, I'm just trying. They can't even hear me. Well, that comes a part of this realm when you screwed away your time. You got to help fix it. Figure it out. You ain't learned how to manifest the body before you came. Like all of this stuff. You don't know none of the spiritual laws. Now you over here in Earth's remission class trying to help restore those who still is grounded with bodies, acting like fools, right? All of this. So back here, it tells us that with this, there is going to come a great sadness. They're going to be people deceived. They're going to die before the time. But out of all the ways that this could go, people have to have free will, free choice, and the liberty to do everything, right? But they have to learn how to choose. They have to learn how this is the path of authentic, organic growth. And it's just if I don't, creator doesn't want robots. I don't want you standing casting down your crown, holy, holy. No, that is the path of the false gods. I want you to stand up and look me face to face. Well, no man can see the face of the creator and live. That was the words of false gods, not the word of your creator. Stand up. I gave you a backbone for a reason. Let's talk about this. Let's reason. Okay, well, why did you choose that? Okay, well, go ahead and see that to the end, right? Tell me, come back and share with me your results of this. So not only should we give them the medical information of what happens when you choose this particular lifestyle, we should also share with them the spiritual insight that goes along with this. Because think about this, there was something, oh my gosh, what do we read? There was, who will go? There is, with the spiritual, a lot of people, they don't see it, but you can see how when somebody's living that lifestyle. Now you have some, you look at them and you wouldn't even be able to tell that they live this type of lifestyle, because the woman, she's all woman, or the man, he's like the macho man, but they live a lifestyle. And a lot of time we think that the men are overly feminine, or the women are overly masculine. Some of them aren't. You wouldn't be able to tell by looking at them. But there is always a spiritual indication that something is off, right? But you have to study it to be able to pick it up and see. And you have to be able to present them not just with the physical evidence of what comes along with this type of lifestyle, but also the spiritual evidence. So we see men that are overly feminine. You know what happens? And that's what I was just looking for, because it shared it in here. When you open yourself up to, when you choose that type of lifestyle, you draw those type of spirits to you. We'll say spirits or disembodied humans. You draw them to you, and you also your spirit is open for them to hop in and out of your car, just like somebody being possessed, right? Remember, all these things we learn, bring it all together, which is why men, a lot of men who live that lifestyle, they begin to switch like women. They've opened themselves up. You know, they could have been born and somewhere down life, it just something clicked in, and they switching like women. Some men can walk better in high heels than women can. You look at them from behind, dude, like, oh man, look at that. And he turned around while he's switching, and oh my God, dude, what are you doing? You know, and they fool people from behind. There's even getting now to where they can transform themselves with the development of makeup, and it's scary because you can't even tell a lot of times, right? And this is no disrespect or talking about anybody, but what happens is when you choose this type of lifestyle, the spiritual repercussions happen as well. Not only does your body begin to transform, and even some of them, they want to actually do the transformation. Give me parts of a man so I can fully live this, or give me the parts of a woman so I can fully live this. Now, the doctors, they can comply with your wishes, but they cannot change your internal organs, right? But still, by birth, just like there's masculine energy and there's feminine energy, by birth, this is the spirit you are. And so now that you are trying to convert your energy into something that you weren't created to be, there's an imbalance. There's a perversion, which is why when a man walk and they do all this, they're overly exaggerated, because the spirit that comes in is trying to get it, but it's a perverted source of energy, and which is why it goes overboard to the other end of the spectrum, and they switch extremely hard. And the women transform into the walk of men, and they start sagging, is because the spirit that's now embodied them, they're putting on it's literally a Hollywood show, y'all. They're literally putting on a show, and they're overly doing it. It's not organic. And so and you can tell, you can spot it a mile away. That you can spot it a mile away, you know. So, and they don't realize the spiritual repercussions that come along with this, right? And I'm not even getting to that. But there's a lot of things with, I can't necessarily prove this particular part yet, but so I'm not going to say it, but I have been noticing this about women who live this particular lifestyle. I'm not going to say it because it might be a little bit of ignorance on my part, but I've just kind of noticed it. But it's not just with women who choose that lifestyle with women and women, but even if they're bisexual, if there's another same-sex party in there, even if like a man is coming, it's something that happens with the energy between the two women that it seemed like it causes this thing to happen. That's something I'm looking at. That's the most I can tell you about it, but it takes on this like this for lack of better words, it takes on this manifestation with their mouth, you know, and you can like begin to see it. It's weird. I can't really explain it, but I've noticed that I've really been paying attention to it. So until I can describe this better, I've just noticed that there's something that something happens, you know. But for lack of better words, that so you can tell that the energies of all is been perverted, right? But the creator, he allows it, you know, he gives them free choice, free will, liberty to choose, right? And it's up to them to pay attention to what happens to their lifestyle, what happens along the way. All these indications they get, they have points along the way where they can go back and assess the choices that they've made, right? So all right, so that's that right there. So let me go back to here, over here in 1 Corinthians chapter 6, verses 9 through 11. It says, "Know ye not that the unrighteous shall not inherit the kingdom of God? Be not deceived, neither fornicators, nor idolaters, nor adulterers, nor effeminate, nor abusers of themselves with mankind, nor thieves, nor covetous, nor drunkards, nor revelers, nor extortioners shall inherit the kingdom of God. As such were some of you, but ye were washed, but you are sanctified, but you are justified in the name of the Lord Jesus and by the Spirit of our God." I think there's a lot of extra stuff added in there. There is some truth to it, but I do agree that a lot of us used to be some of those things. But according to the grace and liberty of Creator, blessed be the most holy, we're no longer that way. So when we come across people who live in that same type of lifestyle, we have a special kind of compassion for them because we used to be there, right? And so when we go to judge these type of situations, right? That's what it was. When the Creator judges this, that's where the book of judgment came in, right? So people judge others, and we should judge others, not outwardly or you going to hell. Not, I don't think that's what judgment means. I don't think like that, because you're still like bullying them and for bullying them to do something based on what you believe. But the judgment comes when you judge situation, you judge the situation and learn the lesson. You can keep it to yourself, but adjust your life to it, right? Now you can judge, and if you have wisdom to share with them on how, especially if they're reaching out. But if they don't want your advice, don't try and give it to them. Don't try and give it to them. But right, thank you, just me. He said, that's what I was just about to ask y'all. My question, now that I read that portion of 1 Corinthians, does this line up on the lines of what Creator said, right? Where it says, "Know ye not that the unrighteous shall not inherit," right? "Be not deceived, neither fornicators, nor idolaters, nor adulterers, nor effeminate, nor abusers of themselves with mankind, nor thieves, nor covetous, nor drunkards, nor revilers, nor extortioners shall inherit the kingdom of God," right? So do you think that's coming, even though it sounds like fact, right? And it could have some truth to it. Is that in line with how Creator teaches us, right? Does that seem like a forcing or trying to make you do something, or this is what you're gonna get? But in the words of the Christian circle, if you do these things, you're gonna go to hell if you don't repent, right? It's like, oh my God, I don't want to go to hell. So now your whole way you processing this is off. Now it's not free will and free choice. Now you're operating and doing all of these things out of fear. But what you're going to find out is you're going to still find yourself in that hell they told you was going to bypass. You still going to end up there by default, because by fear, now they controlled you. And by default, you fall under their kingdom. And you're going to be one of the ones that they have to help restore. Supreme Bright Other Shalom, right? So by fear, they're forcing you, even though what they're telling you is right in a moral standpoint. Don't have sex with animals. Same-sex marriages, it doesn't produce life or reproduction or whatever. Even though it could be right, but the way of presenting the message is like force and fear, and it makes it wrong all the way around, right? It makes it wrong all the way around. So does that, what the Bible gives you, does that line up with the light of Creator or not? Why do I think people, Supreme Bright Other, why do I think people are gay? I was about to be funny. I was like, do you mean happy? No, but based on the conversation. Now did you just come in? Did you just come in, Supreme Bright Other? Or have you been here the whole time? Because I think based on this question, I think you might have just come in. Because I know I addressed this a little bit earlier, right? Some people have different reasons. Some people think it's from birth. Now, you know what? I don't think that can happen. Okay, you just came in. Okay. So when we get done, you might want to go back just to kind of see what we got into. And this is, oh my gosh, it's 2 hours and 40 minutes. But we almost done, y'all. If y'all gotta go to work and pick up the rest of this when you get off. I believe based on the situation that happens, sometimes abuse happens early on in life and people are kind of molded into that lifestyle. Some people, they could not have been molested, because some people say, "Why, I've never been molested," but they could have been in the company of those who carry certain type of spirits, or is certain type of spirits that follow them around, that influence them, and they could have been influenced by, right? You think it's diet? There, listen, I don't disagree with that, because I have looked into that, and you'll hear a couple herbalists talk about it. I think one of the herbalists that talk about it a lot is Jacques. I think he did a really good explanation of that. A lot of times it does have to do with the diet, throwing off the hormones and all of that stuff. And I think that's really good. Thank you for that. Y'all should look into that Pottinger's cats study, and Google Yaki as well, because he gives some insight on it with the foods as well. But I do think there's a few different ways where people are molded into certain types of lifestyles, and it has to do with the atmosphere, the teachers, environment, all of those things. So some people think they're just born that way. I don't think you're born that way. Creator make wait, hold on. Let me make sure I'm saying this right. I'm gonna say, I don't think you're born that way based on the physical aspect, because there could be a spiritual overshadowing that from birth you've been affected by. So, but I think whatever you come in this world as, a man with all the male parts or a woman with all the woman parts, I think that's what you were designed to be by Creator. Now, they could, according to what we learn in WASP, based on a lifestyle that the mother and the father lives while the child is in the womb, the child can be affected from the womb and come out and can have some things off about them. So if you haven't read Susan B. Martinez, Field Guide to the Spirit Realm, and she gets into a lot of the medical studies, possession, oppression, different things. I think it's a whole chapter in there that's dedicated to the children and what happens. She brings a lot of insight and a lot of references about this. So it's not just a cookie cutter type thing. You have to be aware of everything. You have to also include all the spiritual elements, because all of this, like if there are no spiritual elements, if you haven't considered that, it's completely off. You have balance, you got to have Cox story, right? And you're not going to be able to fix the problems. So I think the spiritual insight is just as important as the physical. They go hand in hand. You cannot have one without the other. Yeah, right. You can write truth or lies on a blank paper. We all come here blank, right? And as you're younger, your parents and your guardians begin to write on your paper. As you get older, you get the opportunity to look over and edit your paper, right? You can edit it yourself. What doesn't serve you, use all the information that you've learned, you gather the wisdom, the highs and the lows, right? And however you don't want your life to be, begin to remove those things. Sometimes we need help to get some things whited out off our paper, erase, and we should ask for help. And those of us who can help, we should help, right? It's part of the teamwork. It could be also, yeah, true, Jamil. It could be also what the woman is taking in while pregnant, right? Just like I was just saying, the atmosphere of the mom and what she's doing, along with the foods that she's eating as well, will directly affect the baby being born in the world, So it could happen in a lot of different ways. Supreme Bright Other, right? Diet, lifestyle of the parents, the atmosphere after the child is born, the spiritual engagement, the spiritual surrounding, all of these things we have to take into account, right? And I think it's time we talk about it. We should talk about it, because there's a lot of people out there that live that lifestyle. Some of them, they later on in life they just choose to go this way. Where clearly we know, like, all your life was, well, all my life I just felt this way. Now I just feel comfortable about coming out. Well, okay, but something is off. Something is imbalanced. Something is imbalanced. To go from this to something more, what we would see, what we would understand to be imbalanced. Like there something has happened along the way. Or something didn't get dealt with down here. Now it just got to a point where you fed up and you sick of putting on the show. You just gonna come out, even if it is wrong. But now you feel like it's better out than in, because in you were being destroyed and you didn't know how to deal with it. So now it's just all out, and you accept me how I am. At least I ain't holding it in. Because some people hold it in, they don't know how to deal with it, they don't have anybody to talk to, and they end up ending their life, not realizing that's going to make it worse, right? You don't get away from life. You are life. You cannot end your life. You're just going to change the sphere from where you operate on life from, right? And everybody has to be aware of these things. So, oh, y'all, I did not think it was gonna go this long. Hold on. Okay, so let's go back. Okay, let's go back, and we're gonna finish reading this, and I think we'll end it. Ask any questions now. Ask any questions now. Ask any questions now while we go on. Let me finish reading this. Sound outside the womb is important, so watch what we say around pregnant women. I agree with that too. I so agree with that. Okay, so let's go back. And so we just went back and we looked at the information that Abiel gave to these two women to ask could they get married, and if it was different from the information that he gave to the heterosexual couples, right? And so it doesn't seem like it's a bridge in freedom. He said, well, I need to go ask Creator about this because we never ran into this before. So it said after a night of deep prayer and contemplation and talking to a Creator, this is what Creator gave them. He gave them the same exact information that he gave to the heterosexual couples. And then I will go back up. Verse 14, on page 147, Secret Nazarite Scroll, the Holy Megillah, chapter 19, verse 14. Abdiel taught it had become Nazarene law that any adult was free to marry any other adult if both parties desired. And it just went through the men and women who came of age at age 18 and got the women. The women got the wisdom from the older women, and the men got the wisdom from the older men, but still it was their choice. If they were 18 or now they're of age, they can choose to get married or they can choose not to, right? Abiel taught that it had become Nazarene law that any adult was free to marry any other adult if both parties so desired. The couple must come before the high priest and declare their intention to marry. At this time, the high priest gave his advice but would not prohibit marriage. Also at this time, the couple informed the high priest as to what kind of ceremony they would prefer. Behold, in the early days of the kibbutz is a community, two women met with the high priest and asked if they were free to marry. Lo, Abdiel, who was the high priest at this time, had not previously considered this possibility. The names of the women were Hannah and Mehetabel. Abdiel asked for time to contemplate their request. He asked them to return the next day. Abdiel spent the night in deep prayer and contemplation. He asked Elohim for guidance, and guidance was given. When Hannah and Mehetabel returned, Abdiel spoke, saying, all shall be free to love and marry whomever they choose, provided their chosen partner agrees and is of age. Not only shall your marriage be permitted, it shall be honored and respected without prejudice. Behold, this is the will of Elohim. And that's when we went over here to a WASP. And the Creator says in the book of Wars Against Jehovah, chapter 53, verses 9 through 10, he said, Jehovah hath said, even to them that choose darkness and evil have I given liberty also, for they shall learn by experience in time to come that all these guides and leaders, be they kings or gods or lords or saviors, are but snares from whom soon or late they must turn in order to rise out of the hells they have built for others. For because they put me afar off, or denied my person, or called me void like the wind, I cut them not off, but they cut themselves off from me, and thus fell into torments. For I am as near to the corporean or the mortal, or as humans, those still alive in the flesh, as to the Esian, or those who have already passed from flesh into fully born spirit. For I am as near to the corporean as to the Esian. Let them then disown their kings and gods, and whomsoever hath a kingdom to glorify, and they shall espouse me, for I am as ever present. For this all people shall do, either on earth or in heaven. My kingdoms are not by violence or by war, but by liberty to every soul. And whoso practiceth peace and love and liberty unto others are my chosen. They are on the way of everlasting life. And let me also go back and read verse 5. For those who also choose ways and things against creator and against the laws of life. And verse 5 says, as like a burning fever or a cankerworm that needeth run its course before a healing balm availeth good, so Jehovah permitteth the gods to pursue their reign till helpless they fall, and vying in the harvest they sowed. For time cometh to every man and woman born on earth or in heaven, when sore disaster, if nothing else, would cast him helpless in agony to make him own the mighty power who created him, and make him supplicate and pity for some helping hand to lead him safely to the all persons pleading voice, or hear to my voice. Then, when he is ready to listen, turn from gods and lords and saviors and sons who profess to save, and to stand upright before the Father and learn to know him. Then he is ready to listen, to turn from gods and lords and saviors and sons who profess to save, and to stand upright before the Father and learn to know him, and willingly learn peace and love and reason and truth. Jehovah has said, in every soul I made a door, and in this my light shineth. Herein my voice speaketh, but they turn away and go after them that speak to the external ear. A serpent biteth them, and they are cast in poison and in death. And so we're going to come back here. Abdiel asked for time to contemplate their request. He asked them to return the next day. Abdiel spent the night in prayer and contemplation. He asked Elohim for guidance, and guidance was given. When Hannah and Mehetabel returned, Abdiel spoke, saying, all shall be free to love and marry whomsoever they choose, provided their chosen partner agrees and is of age. Not only shall your marriage be permitted, it shall be honored and respected without prejudice. Behold, this is the will of Elohim. And so the question I asked, is that in line with the light of what Creator says, what we learned from Owaspi, and how the Creator has given us freedom, right? So let me keep on reading. Not only shall your marriage be permitted, it shall be honored and respected without prejudice. Behold, this is the will of Elohim. Divorce amongst Nazarenes was called blessed parting, and was without stigma and often joyful. Abdiel taught that we sometimes come together in a marriage to learn certain lessons from one another, then part company so that we may learn other lessons from other partners. The lifespan is long, and one partner may grow at a different pace than the other, and goals and interests may part. Some would choose to stay with one partner for an entire lifespan, letting the working out of differences be the life lesson. But those who choose to experience the lessons of various partners over the lifespan are not to be thought less of or mocked. Indeed, many of the greatest Nazarene sages and prophets experienced the blessing of multiple marriages and learned many lessons from their partners. Behold, the Nazarene law of blessed parting was as follows. Blessed parting was initiated when one or more of the partners wished to part from the marriage. The partners appeared before a Nazarene judge and declared their intention to enter blessed parting. Each partner then recited a list of blessings they had received by being married to their partner. Oh, wow. A lot of time they go before the judge. This is why I need to divorce this ninja. And they giving you all the list of the stuff, the things that then pissed them off, and that what they say destroyed the marriage. But coming before this particular judge, the partners appeared before the Nazarene judge and declared their intention to enter blessed parting. Each partner then recited a list of blessings they had received by being married to their partner. Lo, every marriage contains life lessons, and lessons are the greatest blessings. Highlighted. Verse 38, we almost done. We almost done. I'm literally almost done with this. Lo, every marriage contains life lessons, and lessons are the greatest blessing. Yea, and after reciting the blessing, each partner pledged their ongoing friendship and their hope for great future blessings for their former partner. The Nazarene judge then helped the partners arrive at an equitable distribution of property, and if there were children involved, the best arrangement for the children, not the parents, the best arrangement for the children. All was accomplished in a loving, cooperative manner, for behold, the ritual of blessed parting was considered a positive step in a new direction, a doorway into a new and blessed future. Behold, many children were born in the early years of the kibbutza. Truly, all the children were loved and respected, and each was born with a special gift and calling. Yet one child was gifted beyond all others, having mystical powers greater than ever even the wisest sages of the kibbutza. Behold, this was the seventh child of Abdiel and Isha, and his name was Enoch. And after Enoch, matter of fact, let me finish reading this, then I'll read the footnote. Yea, he was conceived when Abdiel and Isha embraced in the center of the tree of life. That was a sign that he would become the gatekeeper of the door to the tree, which he became when his years on earth were accomplished. And the door is the center of the tree, and all who enter that door will first greet the gatekeeper. I told you, Enoch, that dude. That's my boy. Look. And all who enter that door will first greet the gatekeeper, and his cherubim name is Kanoko, which means initiate of Elohim. Hanokel, right? And so after Enoch, in verse 45, behold, this was the seventh child of Abdiel and Isha, and his name was Enoch. And at reference number four is after Enoch, and 4 at the bottom it says Enoch is the familiar English version of the Hebrew name Hanok, pronounced Kan-ok. It means initiated or initiate. And right after this, we actually get into the Nazarene book of Enoch, which I'm super excited to get into because I studied the book of Enoch, right? I'm super excited about this. So that is the end of this right here. So based on all that we read, and I know that there is so much more that we could talk about on this, but what I kind of wanted us to just look at here really is based on the information that the ruling that Abdiel gave to these two women, was it in line with the laws and light and love of Creator, right? Or do you think the information that Abdiel gave to these two women, do you think Abdiel at this time was being influenced by Lucifer? Do you think Abdiel was deceived in this moment with the information he gave based on what we read? You know, we kind of went through the scriptures a little bit. We saw in the Holy Bible and Chronicles, even through Corinthians and in Leviticus, how it seems like, I mean, they lay it out, but it's in a forced manner, right? And if you don't do it this way, you're cut off. It adds that fear factor to it, right? Even though they're giving you some truth, but it on top of the truth, not letting just truth just stand by itself. The scriptures feel like they got to add the fear tactic on top of it, right? Is that a Creator? You do it this way or you go to hell, right? Creator said, I give you liberty unabridged, right? And I'm not going to put any fear factor on it. That's kind of the feel we get from a waspy, right? So, well, when you put it like that, I can clearly see a higher line of light, right? And that's what I wanted us to look at. Let us put aside all our biases and how we feel. No, that ain't the type of relationship you're supposed to be in because it's wrong, right? And then you adding all your feelings and stuff, right? You making it about you, right? Instead about this other person that's going through life that's literally either they writing, they doing their book report on their life. They're literally writing out their life on their blank sheet of paper that the Creator has given them, right? Or they're trying to correct some things that other people have wrote in their book, right? But us coming from the outside is making it hard for them to understand, right? You're also putting that fear factor on them, and they're not able to think straight because now talking to you, they get into defensive mode and they feel like they can't be themselves. And even if they want to get out of that life, they're like not even going to talk to you just by the way you approach them or the comments that you say about them or people in this type of lifestyle that you don't agree with, right? So at that point, we need to consider our ways. Are we acting in the line of light with the laws of creator based on the freedom that he's given to all, right? We have to consider that because a lot of times I would venture to say those of us who are not living that lifestyle, we are probably the bigger problem than they are, right? We're probably the bigger problem than the problem that they are personally dealing with because we make them feel like they're less than because the decision that they're made is not good enough. And you're going to go to hell for the decision you made, but you ain't talking about the crack addiction you got, the sex addiction you got, the food addiction you got, some of these other fetishes and stuff you got. You just still hiding yours, right? But they're living, they want to be free. In their mind, I'm free now. I'm just now. Everybody knows this about me, but you're still living under cover of darkness and night, and all this other stuff, right? You become a functional addict to where they're looking for freedom in all ways, and freedom looks a little bit different from functional addicts who are still pretending to be to those who are literally trying to break free. It's like you just gonna because I don't know what to do. This is this. Yes, I am. This is what I do. I like this. Yes. So what? Either like me or love me, right? I can respect them more. I really can because you don't have to guess with them. Like they telling you who they are and what they are, what they like. That's their choice. And the creator said, I have given liberty to all unabridged, right? Because eventually they're gonna have to work it out, right? Whether they made it down here, and some people we see that they do change. Not that they change because this is the way the world is and this is how we should do or whatever, but it goes deeper than that. And a lot of times we don't look at the deeper lesson that we're supposed to be learning while we're here. We're supposed to be learning about the corporal realm and physical things and how to manipulate the elements, how to get the right outcomes from different things from our science projects. And we just have a flesh body that we can use to ground ourselves here and to do some of these tests and things. But a lot of time we get our we get our attention diverted from what we're really here to do. And all of the different distractions. It's just like that Jedi mind trick that Apostle Paul pulled on the Christians, right? When Christ, according to this, Christ was teaching them a higher light, follow the creator, right? Apostle Paul comes and takes the Christian focus off of follow me as I follow the creator. This is how you do it. Don't worship me. Don't do what I do. Now, Apostle Paul in his slick doctrine has taken the eyes off of imitating, living life righteously to now focusing on the death and atonement. And now all of Christianity has been diverted. And we're talking about blood sacrifices and all of these things ain't got nothing to do with living right, living to your highest light, growing and developing. And now don't you dare come say nothing to me about my Lord and Savior Jesus Christ, because his blood atones and it's still good today, just like it was yesterday. Like, bro, that's why you don't grow. That's why they don't grow. That's because their attention have been diverted. What they ain't got nothing to do with the price of tea in China, right? They ain't learning nothing for the most part. They're just going around the bend. They talking about Israel spending the 40 years in the wilderness, but they're doing the same thing. Apostle Paul has come in there and he has usurped the doctrines of life, and they can't see it, right? And we look like the ones who are the blasphemers, and we are spitting all kinds of heresy, right? And according to their doctrine, it is, right? We are the Antichrist. They call us the Antichrist. We are the Antichrist. According to what you're following, we are anti that doctrine. We are creator only. We are for laws of life, right? And the creator allows liberty and freedom, and he doesn't abridge it for anybody, right? I don't think I got nothing else to say. We have 3 hours and 4 minutes. This is the longest video. I did not think it was going to go this long. All right. So, all right. Joel Shan, shalom. Creator seems to to live. Hold on. Creator seems to let toy live, but as he said, suggestions. I can assume what you just said. Rephrase that. Seems like creators like live and let live. I'm thinking that's what you're saying, right? I think I don't know. You may have to like retype that. Sometime I might be a little bit slow. Maybe I'm not understanding what you just said. But yeah, so based on this, based on what we read, do y'all think, I'm gonna ask y'all, hold on, let me see if y'all answered it already. Do y'all think the information that he gave to these two women line up just like we're doing with Apostle Paul? Is he an apostle? Like what Malachi did in his debate, based on the rules for being an apostle, does he fit the script? Right? And clearly going through it, going over the requirements, he did not. He cannot be an apostle, right? According to the script, because he didn't meet all the requirements, right? Does this information, advice, that he gave to these two women, does it line up with what Creator says? Right? Put all your biases and how you feel aside, right? He said, all shall be free to love and marry whom they choose, providing not, listen, what he didn't say, what he didn't say is, yes, this is an okay life to live. What he said was, all shall be free to love and marry whom they choose, provided their chosen partner agrees and is of age, right? Nobody want to answer the question. Y'all waiting to see what everybody else say first. Prince, you just said exactly what you're saying exactly to. Okay. Yeah, so it lines up. It lines up. Yeah, because when I first read this, I was taken aback. I'm like, boy, I thought I found, oh, I'm a Nazarite. Now I'm going to have to burn the whole book. Right? I was like, Pam, stop it. Just use your saying, go through here, read it. Read it in its full context. Right? Read it in its full context. So reading it in its full context, thinking about everything. And I was like, well, to me, and I went back to a WASB, right? Because I've been raised up multiple levels by reading through a WASB. It's definitely much more light in a WASB than what you find in the Bible. There is a lot of forced things in the Bible. And that's all I had for a while. And I use it, and it was good. But you know, when you're growing a little bit more, you're growing spiritually, you outgrow your clothes and you need something bigger that fits you and it looks appropriate on you now, right? So we have to adjust our teachers, we have to adjust our clothes, we have to adjust our shoes, right? Even as we're growing with eating, we have to adjust our diets. When we get teeth, that's mean what? When you start getting teeth, what does that mean? It's time for solid foods, right? You've grown, your system has developed on the inside to where you can digest a little bit more than mother's milk, right? Okay. Jamia said, yes, it lines up. Jasmine said, yes, it lines up. It's raining today where I live. The good and the bad gets wet. The good and the bad gets wet, right? Hold on. I'm going to put this up here. Hold on. Exactly. Jasmine said, yes, it lines up. It's raining today where I live, and the good and bad gets wet. Jamia said, yes. Prince said, yes, it lines up. Jamia said, we cannot stop the freedom of choice, right? Supreme Bright Other said, I think the advice he gave lines up. Jaja gave me a pen to write his own adjustable development. Hold on. Jaja gave man pen to write his own adjustable development. Right. Who? Vinette. I can always count on Vinette to ask a question that's going to get me to think. Who is going to marry them? In all capital letters. And I can imagine Vinette asking this question real loud too. I ain't never seen Vinette write in all capital letters, right? We're becoming lighter and less dense. Let's go back. Who is going to marry them? Good question. Who is going to marry them? It would seem, hold on. It would seem that it would seem at this point the high priest is going to marry them, right? Hold on. Go back. The couple must come before the high priest and declare their intentions to marry. At this time, the high priest gave his advice, but would not prohibit a marriage. Also, at this time, the couple informed the high priest as to what kind of ceremony they would prefer. So, based on verse 17, also at this time, the couple informed the high priest as to what kind of ceremony they would prefer. That would lead me to believe that the high priest is going to be performing the marriage ceremony. Now, we also have to deal with this. We have people who are of the Christian faith, and they're in a position where they can offer the marriage ceremony. They can facilitate the wedding, right? Some choose to based on their belief. Others choose not to, right? But if you now, I want y'all to think about this. Think. I'm glad you asked this question. Let me go through here. So she said, who's gonna marry them? Just me. Hold on, we said that already. We're becoming lighter and less dense. Prince said, not I, and started laughing. Jamil said, I like your answer, Jamil. Not me, because I ain't no priest. She put on her sunshades. Just me said, not I, say this fellow. But that came back with the common law marriage, right? Listen, so they have common law where you don't have to go before anybody. You can just declare, well, we married according to common law, or whatever it is in your state. They'll follow your rules, right? But think about this. This is why I want y'all to really think about this. And the more I think about this and look at this, I see that there are a lot of laws here in the United States that I am having to adjust my thoughts on, because I'm like, this lines up more with the light of Creator than what I originally believed, right? Because coming from the Christian background, nope, you want to take away our freedoms and or whatever it is, right? Or them handing power back to the state to choose, or allowing things like abortion. We could get into that, but we talked on that just a little bit, and it's murder. You have to not just consider the physical fallout, but also the spiritual fallout, which they seem to just completely ignore the spiritual. But you can't have the physical without the spiritual, because there would be no physical without the spiritual, because we are spiritual beings, right? At the core of all we do, we are spiritual beings, and literally this flesh is the clothes we wear. So how can you discount who we really are? How do we not check in with home base, right? How do we not check in with home base? Listen, so judges can marry. You have pastors, we see it in the news, they're being sued by some same-sex couples who said that they denied our rights to be married, or even people who have cake and bakeries baking cakes for married couples, like all of these things we see in the news, right? Right. But as a citizen of the United States of America, right? Let's think about this. In churches who have accepted the 501c3 status, when you accept the 501c3 status of the IRS and the United States government, you said you will comply with all of what they put in this thick IRS code, even though you never read it, right? You want the benefits of it, but you don't read it to see what's really in there. So when you find yourself in a situation that somebody's that's going to test some of these laws in here to see if you read it or not, you get yourself in trouble. They incriminate themselves. They find themselves at the middle of scandals because they didn't do their due diligence. And I refuse services. Well, according to this, and your church, we're gonna shut your church down. Why you? This is God's church. No, homie, this church belongs to the government. You took our status, 501c3. How dare you? This it goes like you're the one in violation, right? Not them. You're in violation because you did not understand the oath you took, the position you carry, as being a representative of the United States government, whatever position here. You're the one that's out of line. You should have read it. You should have considered it. If it does not align with what you believe, you should not have accepted the position. You should not have stepped into this role, right? Because now you are discriminating, and we can hit you with a case. Don't nobody want to think about that. Nobody pays attention. So who's going to marry them? If you are marrying people and you have a problem with marrying same-sex couples, then don't get in a position where you can marry anybody, and you're never going to have to answer that question. Right? That's just the way it is. I'm putting all my biases aside. That's what it is. Right? Now, although I would not get in that position because, like I said, I have my preferences. I have my preferences, man and a woman. Right? I have my preferences. Will I use my fork to actually eat my food? I have my preferences to use things for what they were created for. Right? That's just my preference. But some people, if you disagree with other people's preferences, then you should not put yourself in a position, especially if it's a position that it literally takes care of your entire livelihood. Do not accept the position where you're one day you're gonna have to either perform or not perform in this manner, right? And a lot of time when we do, we don't think about nobody else but ourselves. We want to blame it on the religion. Well, you're violating my religious rights and all of this stuff. No, you're violating your position description and the contract that you signed with the government or with this company or with this church, and you signing your church over to the IRS. No, you are wrong, right? And a lot of people don't want to look at it that way. Nobody wants to consider their own ways, right? So that's what we was really getting into today, right? We wanted to put aside all biases and how we feel and everything about us, and really consider this in the light of Creator and how He deals with this situation. Philip Rice, shalom, shalom, bless, love. Many thanks. Your community post was very helpful in acquiring the Holy Megillah. I just received the copy. Hey. I look forward to following along with your teaching. Cosmine Cal, shalom, brother. Are these the same LGBT laws they are passing today? You know what? I'm going to be honest. I don't really keep up with the LGBTQ laws. Really what pops up on the news and stuff. So somebody else may be able to do a more enlightening teaching on the laws and what's there. I mean, I know of some, but I haven't really taken time. But looking at all things and their hope and what they're fighting for, that is not in itself necessarily wrong. They want equal rights like everybody else have. We want to be free to marry. Like we see here, it say Creator says nobody's liberty shall be abridged, right? I mean, you can't say they're wrong. Now, how they do things, sometimes we think they do too much. They're the anger is off the charts and all of this, and I can understand why. Looking at it from a higher light, I can understand why, right? So even though I'm not in the position where I can make laws or whatever, but when I run into somebody who's different from me or believe different from how I believe or live their life differently from what I live, I respect them regardless of all of those things because you're a human being. And ultimately, we're connected. We're connected. According to Creator, we're all connected, right? And so I respect them and I expect them to respect me. But I'm not going to allow anybody to stand in my face and disrespect me either, nor disrespect my children, right? And, we'll draw lines, but if you show me respect, I'm going to show you respect, but I'm not going to wait for you to show me respect, especially if I see you and everybody, I'm going to show my respect towards you first. That's just how my mother and father raised me, right? Respect your elders, respect everybody else, whatever. Because a lot of times, and that saying, go ahead, Josh. And not to disrespect anybody, call anybody flies, but that saying you can catch more flies with honey than you can with vinegar. That is true everywhere. Because a lot of people, relationships can be built if somebody would just if they would consider the other party, right? What if that was you on the other end? How would you want to be treated? If there was something you were dealing with, or if you are dealing with something that's hidden and it comes to light, if everybody finds out about what you're dealing with, would you want mercy? Would you want grace? Would you want kind people talking to you? Or would you be wanting to get the stink eye? You want them. I mean, like, think about that. Like, what if that was you? Or what if that was your daughter? What if that was your son? Right? I think we have to consider all these things, right? And show proper respect. Even when they don't respect themselves, respect them. Maybe they weren't shown how to respect themselves. But if you treat them with respect, a lot of people, it's like, oh, I wasn't expecting that. Well, thank you. Because they've always been treated like trash or treated like they don't matter, you know? And so when a child of light comes along and a little bit of light shines upon them, it gets their attention. Like, what was that? Excuse me. Hi. Thank you. You didn't have to do that. I know I did it, right? And they don't, children of light, they're just like pure light. They're not like this artificial type of light, because God bless you, the Lord was speaking to my heart. Like, you ain't always got to add the creator or Jesus on it to validate your good deed. Like, seriously, just be genuine and let it happen. Like, you ain't got to add extra credentials and all that stuff on top of that. You ain't got to say, oh, well, the Lord was speaking to my heart. Sometimes all you just need to say is you're welcome. Like, seriously, that's all you need to say sometimes. Or sometimes nothing needs to be said. Sometimes people just need a hug, and just be good friggin' human beings sometimes. Right? Get rid of all the crap that religion has taught you. Just learn how to be a good person towards another person, right? Treat them with respect. Treat them like they were your mother or your grandmother, your father, your brother, your children, right? So you never know. A smile can go a long way. What? Cow, you can catch more flies with sugar honey iced tea than with honey. I think the conditions surrounding the people that grew up then dictate their choices. I believe this is why liberty is so important. Well, I cannot disagree with that either, right? I mean, listen. I can't disagree with that, because flies are attracted to sugar honey iced tea. A lot of them are. So I mean, I guess, but it does. It has to do with your upbringing, your choices, the condition, the people around you. So I mean, yeah, it's a lot of different ways you can look at it. It's all about personal growth, and just. I still don't want someone teaching my children against the laws of nature, but they have the right to live their life as they choose. I agree. That I agree with. I'm glad you said that, right? So now that I said all this, I'm with that live, let live. Those are your choices. But because I believe a certain way, then I'm of that mindset, because I live in accordance with the laws of nature. I also teach my children that. So by default, I'm only going to take them places that believes like I believe in. Even though we're going different places in the world and encounter other people, I teach my children. I try to give them a full balanced education about what things are and choices that people can make. Because sometimes they'll ask questions. They'll be like, I'm like, okay, lesson time. It becomes a teachable moment, right? But you have to teach them in a way where even when you're teaching your children about this, because sometimes like, oh my God, how could, you got to be careful when children are around, because they're sponges and they're picking up, and how you respond, they will respond the same way, right? So you got to teach them about this. And there's a lot of other things. I see your comment, Audrey. She said, well, pedophilia wouldn't be acceptable. Right. Thank you. Pedophilia would not be accepted, right? Because those children are not of age, and that is one of the laws a person must meet, right? That is absolutely a violation. I'm gonna go back and read it, right? Verse 16, at this time the high priest gave his advice, but would not prohibit marriage. Also, hold on. No. Okay, verse 14. Adiel taught, and it had become Nazarene law, that any adult was free to marry any other adult if both parties desired. Now, according to this, what age are you an adult? 18. So anybody under 18 and that have been gotten into this, there's been a perversion some way or a violation somehow, right? Even if they're like in the teen years and they make these choices according to this, you're not of age yet, which is why a lot of times, even when children get in trouble, depending on what the crime is, children will not get tried as adults unless they can go and prove beyond a shadow of a doubt that you were clearly thinking. They just kind of like run tests, psychological, all these things, right? Depending on what it is. And they got to get backstory, family, all of this stuff before they even go try as an adult, right? In most cases. There are some laws that have with the there are some that are imbalanced where it just depends. We ain't talking about that, but we're talking about this. But there are those cases too where they do try them as adult. But specifically, the law is you have to be of age, and according to this, you become of age at age 18, and it has to be your choice, not forced upon you. So Audrey is right. Pedophilia would not be accepted because the children are not of age, and that is not one of the law. And I'm sorry, and that is one of the laws that a person must meet, right? So pedophilia is a violation of both of those laws. They're underage, and it was not their choice, right? So you violated both laws, right? So when we look at things like this, we got to consider all these things, not just how we feel. I mean, we don't have to discount how we feel, but make sure we're looking at it in an unbiased way where we're using the facts and all the information available. We're using that. What are your thoughts on drag queens coming into schools teaching first, second, and third graders? I homeschool my children. That should answer all of that for you. I've homeschooled my children for years. And when I saw this, I'm just like, and that wasn't the main reason because that hadn't started, but there was some other things. I was like, you know what? Even though I think I'll probably do a piss poor job of teaching, I'll probably do worse than some of these teachers that's out there. At least I'm trying, right? But there's just some things I do not want my children to be exposed to because their minds and their thinking and critical skills have not developed to a certain point yet, and they're really vulnerable at this age, and there was a lot of it. And also thinking about the other children, not that I'm sheltering them, but I want to make sure they get a good, solid, balanced upbringing as much as they can before we put them out there, right? You know, Jeremiah is 19, he about to be 20. You know, and sometimes his friends would joke him, "You shelter, they'll never let you go anywhere." But there are some things that we dealt with him in school that, you know, we just the quickest way for us to get this under control, we got to pull you out of that atmosphere. We have to pull you out of that atmosphere. Dealing with that and some of the things Elijah had to deal with, the mini Murphs. Now, Joshua and Josiah, Josh spent 2 years, I think, pulled Josh out second grade. Josiah did. Okay, so Josh had 2 years of public school. Josiah had 1. Isaiah and Bella have never been in the public school system, you know. But there's and even them at that young age, different things that was picking up and having to ride the bus and stuff. And I'm just like, and they was riding the bus and coming home with some things and questions. I'm like, what did you hear that? I'm like, oh my gosh, now I have to expose them because they've been exposed to things. I now have to teach them about it at an age where they can't fully understand it. And the children that are teaching them that, they don't fully understand it. You cannot be a first grader and tell me that you understand anything about sex or any kind of sexual jokes at all. It's impossible. Like you have not had enough time in the world to even understand and be able to comprehend. No, I can control this. I'm pulling them out, right? And so we just control the things we can. So now I don't agree. I absolutely just say it. I absolutely do not agree with that, right? What are your thoughts on the drag queens coming into the schools teaching first and second and third graders? And let me tell you why. Not just because I would say because they're not at an age yet to be able to decipher the type of lifestyle you've chosen to live freely amongst the world, right? So all that they're exposed to at these early ages, it's like, okay, and it seems to them it's okay because you let them come into the school, and the people who teaching us, they think it's okay, they let them come in and read to us. So now they're assimilating us all as okay without actually without actually looking at all that's involved with all of this stuff. So I don't agree with that, because I think you are violating the freedoms of the children that they don't know is being violated yet. That's why I don't agree with it. Not that I don't agree with their lifestyle or whatever. It doesn't have anything to do with that. I believe you're violating the children who are observing this, that can't understand it and process it correctly yet. That's why I don't agree with it. This also kills the child bride. I want to homeschool, but I only have one child, and I don't want him to grow up with social anxiety, not being around other children his age. There's homeschool communities all around, Audrey. Just look at it. Don't jump out there willy-nilly. You research it, find out the local families around you. I didn't realize the homeschool community around here where we just moved to is so huge. They even now, like the YMCAs or whatever, and the AAU sports leagues, they can still socialize. For real, when they're in school, they supposed to be talking to each other anyway. Like, they bring up this argument about socialization skills and all this, but why is my child getting in trouble for talking all the time? Why are they getting in trouble for talking all the time? Right? And I don't think that's really the case, but that's a Jedi mind trick that they use for you to keep your children in school so they can continue to mold them the way that they want to. That's just my personal space. Not all I don't think all public schools are bad. I don't, because you do have teachers and they're genuine. They're, it's a mixture, but at this early age, I want to be able to make sure, as much as I understand and know how, I want to mold my children in a healthy manner and making sure they're looking at everything balanced. And if this has happened, okay, well, consider why this happened. Why do you think that happened? I want them to be able to think. And really, homeschool children are really more, and some people may disagree, but until you homeschool your children and actually get out there and mingle with other people and talk to other people, homeschool children are really more socialized. They're more socialized than the public school students. And you know what proves that? The colleges who will accept them, right? Because they are in the 85 percentile of academics, right? They're great students. They may not start off so good. Everybody got their path they got to work through, right? But they're able to think. They get more world experiences because they're not trapped in the classroom all day. And that's detrimental for children whose ability to learn depends on them being free and being able to manipulate things. Some people like me, I'm a student that can sit and listen to lectures all day long. That's the type of learner I am, right? But a lot of children are not. They need the open space. They need class where they can touch and feel. They have to experience their education and not just hear it going in their ear and just take a test, But us as parents, we have to be able to realize that, understand that about our children, and make the choice and put them in learning environments that's conducive for their growth and overall health. So I thought about it, I considered it, but the more we did it and the freedom we have to move and go about places, they can ask questions. I think homeschool students are more socialized. I really do. And even though I got 14 billion kids, that's a little bit of exaggeration. And they talking amongst each other, and I have a big family, cousins and stuff, and they socialize with one another. I can see how that would look like a obstacle for people with one child, right? So I just say, get out there, get in the community, find the like the YMCAs. The YMCA here, they have programs set up for homeschool kids. They have homeschool PE. When you come to the homeschool PE, you meet all the other homeschool students and stuff. You get to talk to the parents, and then now they meet new friends. Oh, the kid having a birthday, let's do it here. And they meet new friends. All you got to do is just ask questions about your homeschool community. And if you're afraid about that socialization piece, that's easy to solve, right? Go to the park during the day. That's what the homeschool kids are. Meet new friends. You homeschool, how long you been home? You meet new parents. It grows you in different ways, right? Just me said, when we make safe havens, it seems like the homosexual want to kick down the doors and take over. It looks like that sometimes, right? And it's just things we got to work through here in this realm, and people being balanced and stuff. But what I think that stems from is people taking away their freedom and their liberty. That's really what it comes down to. People have abridged the liberty that the Creator has given to them. That's why they want to break down every other door. Like, seriously, if we think about it, you know. All right, y'all. Yep, you're right, Vanette. That I got into all that. I know all of that stuff. Yep. If your children have birth certificates, they belong to the state, and you are a a parent, like you paying rent to the state. You a parent. Yeah, that's why we ain't gonna get into it, but I've done a lot of deep study into that, and um we ain't gonna get into it, y'all. We're gonna end this today. Dana, right? Dana said Dana homeschool her kids. She said, "Facts. My children can converse on a critical level with adults." Listen, you just felt like I said, Audrey, find out some local families who homeschool. Just kind of like Google it. Homeschool activities near me, homeschool co-ops, all of these different things. Just kind of learn about it, get involved, visit it. They have things set up where you can, visit. They do all these things they set up, especially during the summertime. They got all kind of activities they start to set up, field trips. They even here, I think all the different cities, but I think the biggest one is probably like Virginia Beach that I've seen so far. They was like, okay, well, what about high school and prom? They homeschool parents, they creative. They've even got it set up now. Before the Spirit of Norfolk burnt down, they was having like the prom for the homeschool students, and they do everything. They go take the prom pictures, graduation pictures. Check into Heave, HEAV. Audrey, those who want to homeschool, look into that. Look up Heave, put in Heave or Heave homeschool, whatever, it'll pop up. But they have all those things set up for homeschool students who and parents want to make sure they get the feels and experience of prom and all of this. They have all of that, so, but because it's not talked about a lot, we don't even think it exists, and we don't realize there's a safe space where we can pull our children out and converse with other people. But it also causes you to grow up a little bit more. It causes you now to take responsibility for what your children are learning, and not just sending them out the door, letting them be somebody else's responsibility, right? Not saying that that's bad either way, right? Because some people, that's what you have to do, depending on your job, all of these things. But if you want to make it work, even if you work a full-time job, you'll figure it out, right? All right, y'all, that is it for today. We gotta go. Oh, snap. I got an appointment to be at in 30 minutes. All right, so with that being said, I hope y'all enjoyed today. I hope this was a little bit enlightening. We got to talk about this, a very sensitive topic, just a little bit, and we just kind of just like glossed over some things. But I hope, based on what we talked about, we're able to look at how the Creator deals with us, and see if it's balanced wisdom on what is being shared with us, and the way, and if we're looking for enlightenment on which path to go, right? Nobody can make your choices for you. We can give you the information we have, but it's up to you to assimilate it and test the information, right? All right, so with that being said, it is Thursday, April the 20th, 2023, day 21 of year 5 of reading through books, laws, and prophets. And of the 5-year consecutive day count, it is day 1404. And we read chapter 19 in the Secret Nazarite Scroll. Official name is the Holy Megillah, the Nazarene Bible of the Essene Way. And we read verses, chapter 19 is long, but we only read verses 1 through verses 50. And we'll pick this back up tomorrow. It's a total of 200. It's a total of 200 verses in this chapter. So hopefully we'll finish that tomorrow. But I really want to spend a little bit of time on this, because I know some people hear about this, and the first thing the people tell them, like, oh, they talk about homosexual marriage in there. Everybody, oh, we ain't gonna open it. Just burn it all together, right? But let's consider what's being said. Keep it in its proper context. Like I said, us OSP scholars who have learned how Jah truly operates, and he doesn't abridge our freedom. Like, if we make mistakes, we realize we're responsible. We have to go back and help clean up the messes, help restore those whom we have destroyed. It's up to us. It causes us to rise up to a higher light and take responsibility for our actions, and actually become productive members of society, not just here in the flesh, but also when we transition from this realm into the spiritual realm. We'll continue to grow and glow lighter and brighter, right? And just raise higher and higher, right? So I hope y'all enjoyed it. And that's it. So, Father, we thank you for times of discussion where we can deal with sensitive matters, right? And I know this is not the end all be all, it's just a little bit. And there's so many other things that we could talk about and we could have, but it's just this and a little bit of the divorce and everything. And even though we touched on divorce a little bit, it's that same thing, right? The Creator gives us freedom, right? And if you choose to part, right, you should part in blessing one another instead of going before the judge. This is everything this ninja did to piss me off. Judge say, come before me and give me a list of things that you learned, the lessons you've learned, and how your partner has blessed you while you were together, right? It's called the blessed party. And we, right, I'm just like, ooh, wow. Right. And just imagine how many people may get to the blessed party and choose once they reciting how I was blessed by your life while I was with you. I wouldn't doubt that some of them would reconsider their decision. Well, let's get this another go around. Let's extend this. Well, can we get a year? Can we get 6 months? Give us 6 months. Let's go through this year. Let's try and see if we can work through a little bit more of this. Right. So yeah. So that's it for today, y'all. So I love y'all. Thank y'all for hanging out. We talked almost 4 hours. I know. 3 hours and 41 minutes. We got to go. This is the longest video I've ever done. And I'm about to be late for a dentist appointment for Bella. We got to be there at 10:30. I'm glad it's just right down the street. But anyway, I love y'all. I see y'all back here tomorrow morning, bright and early, 6:15 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Peace.
But I see through you!
I'm from outer space, I got Milky Way for blood, evolution in my veins. I'm gold, I've been far away, I'm illuminated now, making
What did you just do to me?
I pushed your astral form out of your physical form.
What's in that tea? Psilocybin? LSD?
It's just tea. With a little honey.
What just happened?
For a moment, you entered the astral dimension.
What?
A place where the soul exists apart from the body.
Why are you doing this to me?
To show you just how much you don't know. Open your eye.
Been dreaming about flying for a long time. I had a vision from the birds, they want a cold sign.
What's happening? This isn't real, this isn't real, this isn't real, this is...
Dreaming about flying for a long time. I had a vision from the birds, they want a cold sign.
His heart rate is getting dangerously high.
He looks all right to me. You think that this material universe is all there is?
I don't need gravity, I need
What mysteries lie beyond the reach of your senses? Existence, mind and matter meet. Thoughts shape reality.
I don't need gravity, I just need growth. I'm a mislead, I'm this illusion. I am not really here, I'm an intrusion. I don't swim or sink, I just float.
Some benevolent and life-giving, filled with malice and hunger. Dark places where powers older than time and waiting.
I don't swim or sink, I just float.
Who are you in this vast multiverse?
I don't need gravity, I just need I don't need gravity, I just need growth.
Have you seen that before in a gift shop?
I don't need gravity, I just need growth.
Teach me.
No.
Jericho crumble.